Hello and Happy New Year, and welcome to this episode of Watch Out for Fireballs. A couple of quick notes before I get into it. First of all, big thanks to Lucian for sponsoring this episode. If you would like to sponsor an episode, please head on over to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. Further, I recorded this episode while pretty sick and on cold medicine, so I'm a little bit off my game, and more importantly, there's definitely a place in this episode where Cole says, can you give me a clean take on yeah? And I retake the word yeah, and I can't find it in the episode. And this episode is already going out a little bit late on the early release feed because technical difficulties. So you guys are going to get a little peek behind the curtain for New Year's. This is the sort of thing that you usually have to wait for me to die and get a career retrospective to hear this sort of behind the scenes content, but you're getting it now. My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Enter the Gungeon, which is a roguelike developed by Dodge Roll Games and published by Devolver Digital for the PC in 2016.
Yeah. And this is another executive produced game. Big shout out to Lucian. Thank you, Lucian.
Thank you, Lucian. Got me off of my ass to play this very difficult game.
Kicking Cole's ass up and down the street.
Yeah.
Is the idea. And it is a hard game.
Yeah, we're firmly in Garytown right now. This is not the first roguelike that we've done. But yeah, it has been a little bit of a learning experience for me, somebody who really has only like dabbled a little bit in Isaac, like never really beat a run of that. To wandering into Gary's multi-hundred, maybe 1,000-hour
sicko.
Yeah, sicko. Yes, yes.
Yeah, roguelike sicko. Yes. Runs. This is not every one of these games I'm like super into. Like I bounced off of Spelunky and such.
Yeah.
But Slay the Spire, Into the Breach, Into the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac.
Yes.
I tend to go pretty hard on these.
I suppose I did go pretty hard on and Into the Breach. Into the Breach is really good. Yeah.
It's it's a totally different genre, but
same kind of meta structure.
Same wrapper. For it. Yeah, and we're going to talk about the base mechanics and kind of explain that. We have done Into the Breach. We've also done a straight up rogue, like a more specific one in Chocobo's Dungeon.
Yes.
Final Fantasy Tales or whatever that was called.
Final Fantasy Fables.
Final Fantasy Fables. Thank you. But this is the first of these kind of new, what are known as rogue lights.
Yes.
Tend to be kind of called. And these are very in right now. Oh, we've done Dead Cells as well.
Oh, yeah. That was more of a survey thing, though. I didn't beat a run of that either.
Yeah, we've done quite a few.
Yeah.
So this will be a little bit of a weird episode because Cole, good on Cole, like literally a good accomplishment. Beat the dragon, which is the first like end boss of the game, which is difficult. This was something where I had a couple of summers of Gungeon and have put like a couple 100 hours into this.
Yeah.
I just played for every night for a week to kind of refresh my memory.
Yeah.
But this is something where like I have a bunch of background in this. So there'll be parts of it that I will speak to that Cole doesn't know, but also good job, Cole.
Yeah, thank you. There will be things in the notes that I got wrong or vagaries of the way that the mechanics interact. that I did not see, because that's what these games are, is the interactions of these different systems and just the preponderance of let's just say kind of nouns in here.
Well, preponderance of nouns, and then just the way that all of this stuff, like it's got a toy box quality to it. Like the idea that every run is different and you have these different parts and they're going to be put together in a different order. Even though that does mean that there are spoilers, like there are people who play these games to learn this stuff. Like, figuring out what these secret mechanics do and figuring out what these items do is a driver for people. So as much as it's weird, to talk about this for a game with such a sparse narrative, spoiler warning up front.
Yes.
If you're a fan of this genre and you like Isaac, you like Nuclear Throne, that sort of thing, and haven't played this, you might want to play it before listening to us explain it.
Yeah, especially if you like understanding, like seeing the actual scope of the game unfold to you step by step, and having mechanics as basic as like your shop revealed only after a certain number of throws, certain number of not successful runs, but just like attempts. There's just a lot that is obfuscated from you at the beginning of this.
Yeah, it unfolds, and it unfolds on kind of a grander scale because there have been 3 major content updates, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But this version of Enter the Gungeon is very different than the Enter the Gungeon way back when me and Nick covered it on Check It Out Comrade in 2016.
Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, let's get into it.
Let's do. So in this game, you play as one of several Gungeoneers, portmanteau of gun and Dungeoneers. There's going to be lots of puns in this.
If you like portmanteaus, like you are in for it.
Yeah.
Baby.
But yeah, you play as one of several Gungeoneers attempting to reach the heart of a gun-themed dungeon called the Gungeon, which sounds like a filthy word to me, always has.
A gungeon?
Gunge. Like the phrase
up our gungeon?
Yeah. So I just, there's something really unsavory about that only comes out when you say it out loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, specifically if you just say gunge.
Gun.
Like adding the yun, like the yun at the end helps a lot. But gunge is pretty rough. Specifically, what they're doing is, the kind of lore of this game. A long time ago, on a planet far away, the planet of Ganymede, there is this bullet landed on this fortress and created this kind of eldritch dungeon that contains a mythical object called the gun that can kill the past.
Right.
So because this is very valuable, all these adventurers who have regrets are drawn to this and get kind of trapped in this kind of eldritch looping space.
Right.
They each have a regret. There is a way to play those and unlock them and everything. That's kind of your ultimate goal. Eventually, for each character, is to go back and undo your greatest regret.
But relatable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And the way that you're going to do this, the way that this plays, it's a little bit like, Binding of Isaac is a really close comparison. It is also, a top-down twin stick shooter kind of deal. To me, this feels really similar to like Smash TV, actually, more so even than Isaac. Robotron would be another thing, but like Smash TV with its bullet hell patterns, large enemies occasionally, mixed in with the regular mooks and the multi-screen kind of layout. I got real big Smash TV vibes off of this.
You're like a Smash TV size.
Yeah.
And you're a little bit bigger, but you're smaller than Isaac. So the playfield is about appropriately sized to that. If for people who don't know, when we say twin stick shooter, it means you control the direction you're shooting and moving, and you can shoot in all directions and move in all directions.
Yeah. It's twin stick if you're playing with a controller or on a console with a mouse. It's a little bit like Hotline Miami. You move around with your WASD and then aim with your mouse.
Yeah. You have in this game a dodge roll, which gives you really generous invincibility frames.
Yeah.
This will allow you to kind of destroy debris, very small enemies that are in your path, but it has a long kind of recovery to it. So you're going to be dodging bullets. This is kind of a bullet hell roguelike, using a combination of these two, of dodging and then just moving. You move faster than all the enemies, and you have a lot more kind of power in just kind of walking out of the way than you think. That's kind of an early lesson in this game, is that you don't need to be dodge rolling everything. But this is about kind of identifying patterns, identifying safe spaces on the screen, and knowing when to walk out of the way and when to actually fire the dodge roll with its little recovery.
Yeah. Getting a good sense for how generous the iframes are was the first order of business to making me feel like I could do anything in this game. And just like identifying, okay, here's what it looks like when something is about to hit me versus here's what it looks like when I can very safely just kind of either stand still or just like move a tap to get away from that. Yeah.
Standing still is like really powerful in this game. Like there's a lot of intimidation that happens in this game. As I was like kind of refreshing my memory with it, I was just like, yeah, this is actually not hard. It just looks really, really fucking intimidating.
Yeah, and like that, but go back and listen to our Ikaruga Jamestown episode. We talk about how big of a factor intimidation and visual flash is in bullet hell games, right?
Yeah, and it absolutely happens here as they kind of ramp up the complexity with enemies with different kinds of overlapping bullet patterns.
Yeah.
On each floor, there is a mechanic called blanks in this. You start with 2. They refill every floor, and these are your oh shit button. They do a little bit of damage to everything on the screen. They destroy all the projectiles on the screen, and they kind of for like a moment. Yeah. So if an enemy is shooting, it'll destroy everything on the screen and also stop enemies from shooting for a little bit. These are like oh shit buttons. These are things like if you are in a situation you can't get out of. They're also kind of grace little bits. If you like, obviously this kind of mastery based game, there are people on YouTube who are like, playing it with no blanks, like no hits, no blanks, etc. There's Loboses out there. But this is, you're not a Lobos.
No.
You're not expected to be a Lobos. And these also play into a boss mechanic, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yes. Yeah. The effects of these blanks can be modified with pickups with your items. We're going to discuss those later. Bit of a foreshadowing here. Everything can be modified with items. Everything about your character, everything about your guns, pretty much can have effects added onto there. But yeah, I like the blanks. I like it is a good idea to make your oh shit button instead of being a smart bomb that kills every enemy, because like, no, that's boring. I don't want to clear out a room. Getting rid of every projectile is much more useful to me, especially when you get to the point where every floor is measured by the boss that you draw more so than the rooms that you have to go through.
Yes. Yeah. I think getting rid of the bullets was a boss consideration.
Yes.
More than anything with the kind of flawless boss system.
Yeah.
Thing. Kind of a difference between this and Isaac is there is cover. Like there are parts of this where you will be playing a kind of slower paced game than maybe you would think. You can hide behind cover that is either the wall geometry. This will stop bullets. And also break visibility so enemies won't attack you. They'll have to circle around. You can also create temporary cover by flipping tables or later flipping other objects.
Coffins.
Gungeon.
Yeah. Stuff like
Coffins, that. Yeah. The tables of the dead. And you can do this to create temporary cover and kind of change the battlefield.
Yes.
So it is a fast-paced bullet hell game, but there are moments of, hanging out in cover while you reload or choose your weapon, or just because there's a sniper at the other end of the screen.
Yeah.
Shooting, and they're about to shoot.
Yeah, I love the table flipping in this, and it took me a while to realize how worth it was, because initially it seemed like, yeah, well, I can only absorb like 3 or 4 hits from a regular enemy. Like, what's the difference there? No, the difference is actually pretty huge, specifically because of the visibility break.
Yeah, and when you flip a table, it kills all bullets around it, and you're invincible when you do it.
Yes.
So it's a little invincibility frame kind of thing.
Yeah. So each character, you begin with at least one default gun, and you can also find guns in shops. There is at least one shop per floor. Sometimes there are multiple vendors in that shop, depending on who you've unlocked. And there are also chests which must be unlocked with keys. Those keys are pickups or purchases.
Yes. Two treasure rooms per floor. And your gun has unlimited ammo. Your starting gun.
Yeah.
There's a differentiation in this game between like unlimited ammo guns and limited ammo guns. They kind of drive this ammo economy, which we'll talk about later. So there are 2 treasure rooms per floor. You'll always get a chest in there. They can sometimes spawn bonus chest, just if you clear a room, depending on a stat,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about, called coolness. But one of these, if you just open the treasure rooms, one will always have a gun and one will always have a passive or active item. And you're guaranteed to get a gun on your bonus item you get from beating the boss if you have not picked up one yet.
Right.
And this game has like 300 plus guns. Like there's a billion guns in it. So
Yes. We'll talk about the ways that those can vary later. It is not just, fun gimmicks that you get, the gun that fires planets or what have you.
yeah,
The subtle differences actually make it a pretty big deal there. But
yeah. There's a really wide gamut of them, and there's also like this thing where what I found as I played it, I would like reevaluate guns that I thought were kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But are actually pretty good depending
Yeah.
on the situation. Like, for example, there's Casey, which is a melee weapon. It's a bat. That's very good.
Yeah.
Actually, like that's an excellent weapon if you know how to use it. Or like the flare gun. I used to think was just shit, but it's actually
Yeah.
like really good for the first couple floors.
Yeah. I was initially pretty put off by the Mega Blaster. You can get Mega Man's hand blaster. No, that thing rules. Like it's so
It's one of the
good.
best guns in the game.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, incredibly ammo efficient.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I was just kind of like, oh, just the spread on this thing is ridiculous. The range isn't that good. And then I finally realized, oh, okay, now I see what we're doing here. Okay.
yeah.
But the idea that if you do not pick up a gun on the floor, kind of makes if you do not pick up a gun on the floor, you're guaranteed to get one as your bonus item from beating a boss. That creates situations where, after I got comfortable with the first 2 floors of bosses, I would rush to the boss, beat him, just so I could get a better gun, possibly. Like throw the dice on that, and then go explore the rest of the floor.
Yeah. Well, you can do that. The other thing you can do is you can make sure you pick up a gun before the boss if you're trying to load up on passives.
Yes.
Because a lot of times passives, active items are really kind of a flipping a coin in this, but passives tend to be very good.
Yeah.
There are a few bummer passives, but passive items are really, really good in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So reloading is pretty important. It's one of the major ways that guns can differ from each other. You do have to reload. Like clip size and reload time are a really big deal. You will automatically reload at the end of a clip. Some guns will fire a special bullet at the end. So that kind of discourages you from reloading early, but you can reload early with a press of a gun or with a gun of a button. Not everything is guns, Cole. This game, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can reload early with a press of a button if you have a moment.
And you do have to, it doesn't just automatically reload when you're out of bullets. You have to tap shoot again
Yes.
to do so, which ended up actually being like a big point of contention when they were making the game, which we'll talk about when we talk about development.
Yeah.
Your non-starter weapons there are a few exceptions, but tend to have limited ammo. So this kind of drives this ammo economy in the game where do I use my better gun for just common floors or do I save it for the boss? You can replenish this with a couple items and then also ammo pickups, either full ammo or half ammo for the weapon that you picked up and then a quarter for every other gun you have. Are those half stacks?
Yeah.
And those used to be one of the big changes in this game with those advances is those used to be so rare.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when this game first came out, it was very, very hard to reload things. I think it was because they wanted you to use all of the guns.
Yeah.
And they wisely left that behind.
Yeah, I felt like the rate of ammo drops was actually pretty good. It kind of kept me on a good, kind of riding a line very cannily, I would say.
Yeah, it'd be bad if you never had to worry about ammo.
Right. When you get one of those, you probably want to pick up the gun, pick up the ammo pickup, because if you don't, it may be snatched away by our buddy / worst enemy, the resourceful rat.
Yes. He's kind of like a little Dennis the Menace like character.
He's
kind
an
of like
instigator. Yeah.
A little instigator, a little annoying goblin. And so he will pick up things that you leave behind. You can scare him off if you walk back in the room and shoot him, but eventually he'll get it.
Yeah. He will never go away entirely.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can beat him. You
Mhm.
can, he's a hidden boss, but
Oh, does he go away
spoiler, I
permanently
guess.
after that?
No,
Oh,
I don't think so. You can get you can get some items that mess with his mechanic of picking
okay.
up items and stuff. But I've only beat him a couple times.
Okay.
It's the hardest boss in the game for my money, and the times that I haven't noticed
Mhm.
if he shows up after that. But you can get if you get all of his items, you get like a resourceful rat costume,
Hmm.
and then you can leave items around.
Oh, nice.
So
But then you
there's a
have to
couple
dress
different
up
things you
like the
can do with
resourceful
that.
rat. Then you have to
You
be
have to look like a
reminded of
dick.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're wearing a visor backwards,
No.
you know?
Oh,
the huge
the
dick.
shame.
So you mentioned there are lots of passive items that you can find or buy. These affect either your character, your stats, each of your bullets. You can also get active items that are either consumable or they're very powerful, or you can get ones that operate on this type of cooldown. You can't just wait and just spam this. Enemies have to be around
Yeah.
for it to cool off.
Yeah. Because when you clear a room, it's cleared. If it was the
Yeah.
case that it was just straight up cooldown, then, there's no risk in waiting for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it sounds like we're like blowing over, like, oh, they just talked about passives. No, we've got a whole like header down the outline about passives.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about like,
But
yeah, go ahead.
we're also not going to talk about all of them because there's
Right.
hundreds and hundreds of all of this stuff. So
Yeah,
don't
it's
expect
too
that.
much. Please do not expect
Yeah.
that. Yeah. As far as health goes, it's pretty simple. You start out with 3 hearts with most of the characters. There's one exception that I think I'm aware of. And generally taking a hit from a regular bullet will drain 1/2 of 1 heart.
Yes. You get health back from random drops. You can also buy health from the shop. There's an NPC that will heal you. And you can, if you find a health pickup and you don't need it, it can be saved for later. And it shows up at this very cute little
I love
thing
that
full
thing.
of blood.
I want the blood dispenser, Gary.
I would like a blood dispenser. I want hot and cold blood on tap. Yeah, not in like an H.H. Holmes kind of way, like, in a Gungeon way.
Yes, yes. Love it. Your health pool can be expanded with items or by flawlessly beating a boss. Beating a boss without being hit. Is it without being hit or is it without losing a heart? If you have armor...
It's without being hit. I wish armor protected you. That's the difference between this and Isaac, which also has a flawless boss mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is, you actually get an item for that.
Okay.
Those are called master rounds. So it's always an item, but those only appear when you defeat a boss without being hit.
Yes. And that is a way for you to assuredly and for quote unquote free to expand your health pool. Obviously it is something you always want to try to do. I don't know why you would try to be taking a hit, but
Yeah.
probably the most frustrated I've gotten in this game has not been on like dying in a dumb way. It has been getting very near to the end of a boss and taking a stupid hit that I should have been able to get out of the way of.
Yeah. That is a bad feeling, and this is a mechanic. As much as I love this game, I think that they should have taken a Darkest Dungeon route and made this something you could change in the options.
Yeah.
Whether you get just have a ramp up mode or something where you
Yeah,
always
yeah.
get a health pick up every round, because it's very frustrating, and you kind of go through an arc where you're like, God, this is the worst fucking thing in the world. To I can actually like beat some of these bosses. This is cool.
Yeah.
It's actually not that big a deal if I take a chump hit on the first floor.
Yeah.
On the first floor boss, because I can make that up on the second and third floor where the bosses are also tend to be doable.
Yeah.
And you don't actually, just to get through the dragon, to get through the main beating the game, you don't have to have a huge health reserve kind of once you get your feet under you. You can end up with red hearts almost across the screen.
Yeah.
Through kind of various items and techniques and stuff. So it ends up feeling incredibly frustrating. It is a weird design choice. I know from the Slack that it personally like turned off a bunch of people who were like, "Ooh, cool, they're covering Gungeon. I'm finally going to play that." And then we're just like, I can't do that. It's too frustrating to take a hit. And you really have to get rid of that perfectionism, and it's really hard to.
Yeah, like
to get rid of it.
I mean, I'm the one who brought up the annoyance. I can't see it being a make or break factor with the game. Different psychographics, right?
Yeah. some people just cannot handle missing out on that, that opportunity cost.
Yeah. I wonder
Getting the attaboy.
I wonder if somebody who is reacting poorly to this is also a kind of person who enjoys, say, like a Devil May Cry, where you're rated after encounters and boss fights and stuff.
Yeah, and we'll redo an encounter if they get a bad
Yeah.
grade.
Yeah. I mentioned armor there. Armor is really good. It acts like spirit hearts from Isaac. So these are just full hit points. There's no half armor that you can lose, but you will find these around. They are added onto the top. Spirit hearts armor. They can be lost but not normally regained. You have to find new armor. A nice thing is losing a point of armor will shoot off kind of this limited blank.
Yes, which gives you a little bit of breathing room because you've been hit. It can also do all the things that blanks can do that are kind of miscellaneous things, which we'll talk about. But unfortunately, it does still count as getting hit by the boss.
Yes. Oh
well. So initially, the Gungeon has 5 floors. These are called chambers. Everything is a gun pun. And they get more difficult as you delve deeper. Right. So first chamber, fairly easy. Second chamber, still pretty decent. And then it starts really kind of ramping up with 3 and 4.
Yes.
And each floor is made up of randomly selected rooms. These rooms are handcrafted. They're not procedurally generated, but the way they're put together is random.
Yes. With the way that I read them describe it as like the constellation is randomized, but the actual stars are hand done, and like the contents of the room will be randomized too, like enemy loadouts and stuff like that. Each floor kind of has its own enemy pool that it pulls from. Stronger enemies will be introduced on later floors. And this is good. I like that they have handcrafted these rooms. I don't know how you would get something tight by doing proc gen on every single aspect of this.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And what part of the feeling of mastery of this game is learning an order of operations for a specific room.
Yeah.
Like there are rooms you'll run into kind of over and over that there are specific tricks to.
Yeah.
And kind of like instinctively recognizing them is a big part of this.
Yeah. So if you're somebody who plays roguelites and you want to never see the same thing twice, that may sound like a bummer. Because you are going to see the same thing twice. However, even after putting about 20 hours into this and going through specifically the first 2 floors many, many, many times, there were still new rooms that I had not seen before.
Each of those updates added tons of rooms.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different rooms to work with, and you will be different. Like you'll probably have a different loadout and everything. So it still has that appeal.
Yes.
To it. So the basic flow is you arrive on the floor and you start exploring, clearing out rooms. Once you enter a room, you cannot leave until all the enemies are dead. And you make your way towards treasure, clearing the floor if you want to, etc. Certain rooms have teleporters in them, so you can backtrack. This is really great. I wish Isaac had this.
Oh God, I love this because some of these floors get pretty big, and backtracking through an empty room sucks. Yeah.
Even though you do move faster.
Yeah.
When there's no enemies, which is a really great touch.
Yeah. And as you fight, you are, risking your health and risking your resources to accumulate your money. In the notes, I call these casings, I guess they call them shells. We're not going to be gun term particulars here. But you get money that you mainly are going to end up using in the shop that's available on each floor. And each of these shops has a handful of items that are available, randomized and pulled from a pool that is kind of expanding as you unlock stuff in the game.
Yes. You're also finding pickups, which include, ammo, which you mentioned before, and health, but also keys that you're going to use to open up chests. The key economy is very important in this game. Chests are ranked by color, brown being very common. Then it goes up to blue, green, kind of red, black, and then rainbow. And rainbow chests have a lot of items, and they're very good, and they're incredibly rare. Unless you play a certain mode.
Oh, yeah. And each item kind of has a rarity associated with it from D up to S, I believe. Yeah. And, they're that determines their cost in the shop, and that determines which which of the chests are going to show up in. When we talk about that key economy, you might think, okay, so should I just skip over a brown chest if it's not going to have good stuff? Like, I have found very good stuff in brown chests, and brown chests seem to very frequently, not all the time, but frequently enough to make it worth it, kind of refund you a key when you open up. Like, there will be a key inside. So it generally, like, they find a way to make those not just like, foghorn when you get in there.
It's very rare. Like, every once in a while, you'll get a kick in the dick.
Yeah.
Kind of chest. But you basically want to open every chest you can and then prioritize the higher quality ones. But if you have the keys, brown chests are worth it. There are some of the best items in the game will show up in brown chests. Like, you can get the sling, which is just an incredible boss killing weapon. And the Casey, as I mentioned before, which is very good.
Yeah.
The melee weapon. If you so you make your way through the dungeon, and either when you're comfortable or when you find it, you fight the boss, after which you can go one floor deeper to things. And it being a roguelike, if you die, that's the end of that character. You see a little stat screen that shows every pickup you've gotten, what killed you, and then you can either go back to the breach to pick a new character or do some of the meta progression, or you can just start over.
Yeah.
And you lose all those guns and pickups, and the floor is all randomized again. You are starting over.
You're starting fresh, anew, but not as if you just fired up the game after installing it. No, there is a meta progression that we've kind of alluded to before. As you go through the Gungeon, you will occasionally find keys that let you unlock these jail cells that have NPCs in them. And many of these NPCs are going to go back to the starting zone, the breach, of course, gun names, and others will kind of randomly appear throughout floors and issue challenges to you and offer rewards. Once you unlock these NPCs, they remain available to you. I have not been able to determine like when you're going to find one of these. Like, the biggest thing that I saw was like, oh, this person will only appear after you've beaten the dragon once. This person will only appear after you've cleared a past once. Stuff like that.
Yeah, for the most part, you unlock them at a steady clip when you first start the game, and then it kind of trickles down.
Yeah.
Until you eventually get them all. As you beat bosses, you get a currency called hegemony credits. Hegemony. I always get that. I mispronounce that a lot. Be prepared. This is the name of the human space empire in this universe. They're not good.
Yeah.
A lot of your characters are rebelling against them.
Maybe something about the name hegemony implies that they're not great.
The imperial hegemony of man or something is what it's called.
Yeah.
And you spend these, so these do carry over. After you die, you get to keep these back at the breach, and you spend them at various shops to add guns and items to the rotation pool. So you're not buying the item, you're buying the chance for it to show up on a run.
I never found this, and I never found an NPC who can do this, and I never saw in my research that one of these could pop up. Is there a way to take a gun out of rotation if you don't like it?
There is not. That's a really good idea.
Okay.
But that,
it's something that I've seen in other roguelikes, specifically Dead Cells. You can spend resources if you mistakenly buy those fucking boots. But that's a different game.
It would be a cool addition. The developers of this were really generous with post-game content.
Yeah.
All of the expansions are huge, like lots of extra floors and stuff. And I think they're just tired.
Well, no, I'm just asking for one more thing. It's just a button.
Yeah, just while you're there, while you're at the fridge, can you grab me an item that erases guns from the pool?
Yep. Can you buy me a gun that can get rid of this gun?
Gun shooting guns, shaking my damn head. As you play the game, one kind of the grander meta progression you're doing is acquiring these special items on each floor. These 5 pieces of the bullet that can kill the past. Ordinarily, when you beat the game, you run into the gun that can kill the past, but you need the specific bullet. And if you have all of these, you can enter the past. Otherwise, though, once you defeat the 5th boss, the High Dragon, you go to a place called the Aimless Void, and you fire a bullet. If you have just a regular bullet, you just go back to the Gungeon.
Because you just killed yourself.
Because you kill yourself, because the gun that can kill the past looks like
it's like
a
a
Roger
Joker
Rabbit
prop.
gun or something.
Yeah.
It's a Joker prop. It's very funny. It just fires back at you. So if you don't use the special bullet, you start over. If you use a special bullet, you go to a story scene with that character that you kind of start over with a fresh loadout.
Yeah.
And these are all universally like charming and super cool, and relatively easy.
Yeah, from what I saw, I never did one of these because those items are kind of hard to get. Like, you're not going to be getting those if you're just beating the dragon by the skin of your teeth. But they're cute.
Yeah.
I like them, and they're really inventive.
Yeah. And a couple of them are hard. They tend to be pretty easy. And that's you've beaten it with a character once you've beaten their past.
Right.
You have to beat with all the 4 main playable characters to unlock the 6th chamber, Bullet Hell, which has the real final boss, the architect of the Gungeon, the Lich. That level sucks. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
The other kind of bit of meta progression is the elevator. Did you fuck around with that at all?
No. So, like the shortcut kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I got that guy, and I was never able to get like everything that he needed. I just like I ran into like a money crunch. Is because he asked for an awful lot.
He's really greedy. There's a guy who will fix a elevator so you can start later in the Gungeon, so you can skip floors.
I mean, the thing that I heard from people who really like Spelunky is that the shortcuts are kind of a sucker's game because you want to go through those early levels to get pickups, right?
It is the same here.
Okay.
In Gungeon, every floor you get him to fix the elevator for, you get an item unlock, which is why I did it.
Okay.
But I never actually do shortcut runs. It also unlocks boss rush
Okay.
mode if you get all of them. But yeah, it's a big bummer. So I'm glad you didn't engage with it very much. The way that works is you ask for like, exorbitant amounts of keys and money and stuff. Basically, can you beat this floor without powering up on it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of and it makes sense because you're going to be skipping that floor if you use the shortcut.
Yeah.
Like, hey, can you get through the first floor and give me 3 keys and $100? If you can get through it without spending 3 keys and $100, you're probably ready to start the second floor.
Yeah.
Without having gone through the first floor.
But it's like, I don't know, unless something dumb happens, going through the first floor or even the first 2 floors, like I'm investing 10 minutes of time on a run to go through 2 floors to potentially get things that are going to make me much more successful when I get to the parts of the game that are more dicey, right? Yeah. So it feels worth it.
And I'm playing the game to get items. Like I'm playing the game to make a cool build.
Yeah.
I don't want to skip over the easy floors that might give me really, really killer shit.
And like from a psychological standpoint, beating the early floors gives you confidence before you go into the part that you that you have trouble with.
And master round, so you have more health. Like the shortcut system in this, I don't think is super good.
Yeah. Let's talk about the aesthetics of this. Just before we get into the specifics here, we end the generalities with aesthetics and the development history. I love the way this game looks. Not only is it like detailed and gorgeous, but the character designs and animations are so fucking adorable.
Everything is really cute. Like we're talking about a gun themed thing, and like I think guns are bad in the real world. I think they're unaesthetically pleasing. This is so fucking cute. Just the bulletkin, the little basic bullet guys,
the
like
way
their little
that they
walk
toddle.
cycle.
Oh my god!
Yeah, their toddle cycle. The final evolution of Vertile. They're just incredible. Like everything is so cute, and some of the things are really cool looking.
Yeah.
Like did you run into the high priest?
Yes.
That's really fucking cool looking.
Yeah.
He's like a cool looking boss. It's not cute. It's just cool.
Yeah.
It is aesthetically, close to best in class for this genre, I think.
Yeah, top notch. I love the designs. Even just like the sounds that the bullet can make when you kill them. Like it's a little bit like they've got big servbot appeal.
Yes.
And even stuff outside of the bulletkin, this is something that occurred to me back when I was watching like Adventure Time, especially in the early episodes where it was more cute and less serious. But just the idea that like you can make a piece, you can make anything into a fun character by putting an Adventure Time face on it. Kind of that same thing happens here. Has a little bit of the same kind of appeal to it. Very good.
Well, and it permeates everything. So it's not
Yes.
just how things look and how cute they are and the sound. It's the kind of the creativity.
Yes.
Like the writing in this is very fun, full of gun puns in it. Really, really dense. Like everything is a gun pun. And then everything is like, to come up with like, hey, you come up with 300 different fun gun ideas. They're really creative in a way that like matches the aesthetics. Like an absolutely garbage gun is the lowercase r, which I think is incredibly fun.
Yeah.
It's a lowercase r, the letter, which looks a little bit like a gun.
Yeah.
And it fires out the word bullet with somebody going bullet whenever you shoot it. It's really shitty. It's real bad, but you can get that. And then you can get an item that gives it a synergy where it starts saying rocket. Because it shoots rockets. It starts,
So good.
you can get different synergies where it says different words. So like you can get gold things that start saying things about wealth. Yeah. Like it starts saying money, cash, and stuff when you shoot. It's real, and there's voice work for it. It's very, very charming.
Yeah.
That's just that you're already detailed, but there's so much of that in this.
It feels like they took every opportunity possible to like put something delightful and cool into it. Which is a little bit underselling it because it seems like, they just stumbled across it. No, they made every opportunity here. And like, we're heaping a lot of praise on like the creativity here. Some of the guns are references. They're pulled in from other games or other,
a lot of them.
Yeah. Or like even like, movies and stuff. Like you can get the gun from Blade Runner. You can get Deckard's gun from that.
And Judge Dredd's gun.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Mega Hand earlier, Mega Man's gun, and the Heroine, which is Samus's gun, are two of the best, like, bread and butter guns that you can get.
Yeah.
Incredibly good room clearing guns.
Yeah. But they're like fun adaptations of those gameplay ideas that are brought in. This
even
feels
more fun when they start bringing in like weird stuff like melee weapons that are kind of like guns. Like you get the gun that has a boxing glove on the end, and it's kind of a melee weapon, So, and the Gungeon, we'll talk about curse like at some point.
Yeah.
But the Gungeon doesn't like melee weapons. Like if you have something like that, like you'll get cursed. But like or like a stick. There's like a stick you can get, like the board that stretches out that you smack people with. Like it's very creative.
Yeah. My favorite thing, the thing that made me like laugh out loud, like a lot of this is like smile out loud, but there's just a gun that you pick up called the Shell. And it is a gigantic shotgun shell that shoots shotguns.
That didn't fire when they hit.
So it's a way to shoot around corners because the direction that the shotguns are going to fire is randomized depending on how they land. But like the description and the Ammonomicon, which is your big kind of bestiary and item description thing, it's half like functionality description but also half lore kind of thing. For the shell, it's like, so and so figured, well, everything in the dungeon is a gun. What if ammo could be a gun? But like it couldn't hurt to try or something like that.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Yeah,
and some of those are not very efficacious when you pick them up, but they are just really charming.
Yeah,
the first time you're like, holy shit, this is great.
Love it.
The music is also really good. In this excellent soundtrack. It's composed by indie hip-hop artist Dose One.
I think Dose One. I don't think it's Dosione or Dosone.
It's Dosey Do.
Yeah.
I know Jeremy is a big fan of Dose One. I don't know if we're saying it right, and I don't think he listens to the show, so we'll never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, the soundtrack is great.
Yes.
The intro song to this is like kind of a pop banger.
The credits song. Gary.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it's incredibly good.
Yeah.
It's a rap. It's a little it's like an end of credits like rap about Zorro or whatever.
Yeah, no, I was literally going to pull that up from The Simpsons when they went to see the Mask of Zorro or whatever. Z to the O to the double R. O.
The poke of Zorro.
Yeah, there we go. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, the music in this is real good. So this was made by 4 employees of Mythic Entertainment. That was strange to me because I would not associate them based on their. I would not think that people who came out of the studio that made Dark Age of Camelot and like later Ultimate Online expansions. I would not associate them with making something like this, let's say. There's even a Dragon Age 2 connection. They assisted with Dragon Age 2.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Like we didn't plan that, of course.
Of course.
They started the company in 2014. The company's called Dodge Roll Games. And they named their studio based on the specific dodge roll from Dark Souls. They are all huge Dark Souls fans. I think that comes through in a lot of this, specifically like the way the boss fights
Yes.
are kind of made to be challenging, and then also that mechanic and how that feels. Like they talked about trying to find something like Ikaruga, how that allows you to avoid bullets.
Yeah.
And going with this instead, which I like significantly more than I like the color change mechanic of Ikaruga.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of these developers, Dave Crooks, he was listening to a soundtrack for a Vlambeer game called Gun Gods with a Z. He thought of the pun Gungeon, and he said, well, why don't we make this into a game we work on for 5 years?
Yeah. Hey guys, enter the Gungeon.
Yeah. Why
And
not?
they were like, cool.
Okay.
What is it? So they hashed it out. They sat down at lunch and like figured out the lore and figured out what the Gungeon was and kind of came up with all these ideas. Over the course of development, they had a couple different things they changed. As mentioned before, they decided to make individually handcrafted rooms and then mix them up with a randomizer. They also originally had an active reload system similar to Gears of War.
Yeah.
And then they switched that for an auto reload, and that was too fussy. And then they had an auto reload, but that wasn't tense enough. They like this moment where you have to reload and kind of dodge bullets while you're helpless. So they ultimately landed on that. And there's a little Easter egg. You can get an item that gives you the Gears of War reload. And when you do it, you have more power.
It makes the game so much more stressful.
It's so hard. I hate that item.
Same
I
thing
fucking
with
hate that item.
what is it?
The cool gun?
Yeah, the rad gun
The
or
rad
whatever
gun?
it is.
Yeah. It's so hard.
Like Gears of War is a much slower game, and like you're in cover, it's a cover shooter. So like the active reload makes sense for that. Here it makes a little bit less sense. I'm very happy they decided not to rely on that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But yeah, are there any other details about the game's development that I didn't throw in here that you're aware of, Gary?
No, I mean those are the big ones. It's very charming.
Yeah.
To me, these four dudes just being like, hey, Gungeon. And then coming up with this much stuff. Like they talked about making all these guns and boss ideas and kind of, it felt very holistic when I was reading about it. Like they would just come up with an idea. They're like, hey, I don't know, Bullet King. And then they would be like, what is a Bullet King? And then design it, hand it over to their programmer who would, make these bullet hell patterns for that character. So it's this very collaborative, like, it's kind of the dream, when you think about like, I have lots of good ideas, but I don't know how to program for shit. You want someone just to take your cool, fun idea and just make it into a cool, fun game thing. It feels like, not to undersell the idea people in this, but it sounds a little bit like that was their workflow.
Yeah.
And that sounds fucking awesome to me.
Yeah. And obviously we see the end result. The end product is very good. Yeah. So there were two major updates post-game launch, along with kind of a final one that was a little bit smaller. The first was Supply Drop, released in January of 2017, so about 6 months after the initial release, I think. Adding more enemies, guns, and room layouts, stuff like that. What was the big theme around Supply Drop?
Just more.
Just more?
Yeah, I think there's just more stuff to it.
Gotcha.
The two final ones were much bigger.
Yeah.
So Advanced Gungeons and Dragons was released in 2018. This added a lot more weapons, enemies, play modes. So I think this is what added Rainbow mode and the speedrun mode. You can do turbo mode, things like that. It also rebalanced things. Supply Drop did that a little bit. Advanced Gungeons and Dragons made this kind of the game it is now. For people who play this and bounced off it, it used to be harder.
Gotcha.
It was very common to get to the fourth floor and run out of ammo for everything except for your starter weapon. And it was shitty. It felt bad.
Yeah, no, I would not like that very much at all. Yeah.
They made it much more generous with Advanced Gungeons and Dragons.
That's good. We're going to talk about those mechanics as if they were always part of the game, but I understand this has been, had a very long, a very long development cycle where stuff was thrown back in. I also really respect and admire this. They had a third major update in the works, but they canceled it because they were tired of working on the game. They wanted to go on to make something new.
This has been my job for 5 years.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
You can see, hey, like, we're pretty good at coming up with cool new ideas. I want to come up with different kinds of cool new ideas. But yeah.
We've explored this play space.
Yes.
But then they went and made the Farewell to Arms update, which is huge.
Yes.
That added a couple final secret characters who are kind of rewards for it, and then a final couple secret floors. It's neat. It's a very beefy update.
Is this where
So
they added like
have done right by this.
the oubliette and stuff like that, or?
The oubliette was always there. This is where they added the final two secret characters, so the Paradox and the Gunslinger.
Gotcha.
Who are both immense amounts of fun. And then also the Rat Floor, which I think is actually really obnoxious, but is really creative. So.
Gotcha.
There's a spin-off kind of sequel to this called Exit the Gungeon, created by Dodge Roll for iOS, originally an Apple Arcade exclusive. You can now get this on other platforms.
That's cool.
This is kind of a roguelike side scroller, but with arena-based rooms.
Yeah.
You don't really scroll very much. It's more of like a side game.
Yeah. It kind of looked like, I don't know, like a roguelike Super Crate Box to me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I find this really, really hard. I have not gotten very far in Exit the Gungeon. I was very excited for it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just not to my speed. It has all of the same kind of care and craft and humor into it, though. Like when you jump, it's called a vertical dodge roll in the game, which is really cute.
That's so good.
It's very cute. It's just, I find it really hard. So at some point I will, try to go deep into Exit the Gungeon, but I
also
find it really difficult.
I couldn't imagine doing something that requires a Gungeon level of precision on a touchscreen. That seems like problems to me. You can, I was going to play it like I can just put it on my Apple TV, and I've got a PS4 controller attached to that. But knowing that I can just play it other places, that's better for me. So. Yeah.
It's just on Steam and Switch and stuff now.
Nice.
Originally an Apple Arcade exclusive.
And yeah, they about a year after the original release, they ported Enter the Gungeon from PC to multiple consoles, including for the Switch. This is where I played it. I found myself doing much better with this after I got different grips, different Joy-Cons. I'm loving these Hori grips that I've got. It's kind of like putting two potatoes on either end of your Switch, but it gives you a full-sized analog stick and full-size triggers, and works much better for this.
Yeah, that's how I got into it as well. I couldn't get very far with mouse and keyboard. Really, really kind of found its home for me on the Switch.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the different characters.
Let's do.
Kind of starting with my least favorite character here, not on purpose or anything, just happens to be, is the Convict, Laser Lily here, who is kind of positioned as a high damage but low range character.
Right.
So she starts with an item called the Budget Revolver, which is real shitty. It has a very small clip. Fires very quickly. And then the sawed-off shotgun, which is a pretty shitty shotgun that has a really wide spread. There's a regular shotgun that's actually pretty decent. And if you get some accuracy ups, the sawed-off can become good, but it doesn't start off very good.
Is the sawed-off infinite ammo, or is that the secondary weapon? That's
a secondary weapon.
Yeah.
The Budget Revolver is infinite ammo, and it's horrible.
Yeah. I didn't have an awful lot of luck running Convict. I only really had luck with one of these, the one we're going to talk about next here. It seems like she should be good, just because, high damage. You think, okay, best offense, good, best defense, good offense. Not necessarily the case. She gets a consumable weapon, the Molotov. This leaves a huge area of fire goop on the floor. It will light enemies on fire, sensibly enough, but that is not as immediate as you would want it to be. And it has very limited application against bosses. You would think, okay, I'll save this for the first boss. I think it only really works on like two of the first four bosses.
Yeah, two of the three, but it's also just, it's temporary.
Yeah.
And then she has a passive item, the Enraging Photo, which is a picture of her mortal enemy, the crime boss that you defeat in the past, Blackstash.
Yeah.
And this gives you, when you take damage, your guns reload and you deal more damage for a short amount of time.
Yes.
That could be very useful, even though, ideally, especially against bosses, you're not taking damage.
Yes.
So this kind of allows you to make lemonade out of lemons if you do, but her guns that she starts with are too annoying.
Yeah, like it seems like she has a very low ceiling because her biggest benefit is something that you're not going to use if you're good at the game. Not going to use very often if you're good at the game.
Yep.
I can see like making a build that is kind of meant for that. Like she probably would be good for the vampire deal. Probably like, I'll take damage for this and clear out this floor and then get the health back later. But yeah, the ceiling for her seems very low.
Well, the damage boost she gets from the photo, it doesn't it's not, there's a character in Isaac where it lasts the floor. For her, it doesn't last the floor.
Oh, it's just it's a little bit.
It's just a temporary buff. Like it'd be really cool if it lasts the floor.
Yeah.
That would totally change her. But as is, I think she's the worst character.
Yeah.
Moving on to, who I think is the best character, the Hunter.
Yeah. This is a little bit counterintuitive. Because the best thing about her is something that doesn't feel very satisfying in a bullet hell game. Which is her crossbow. So this is kind of just a really long haul character who gets this early advantage. Her basic weapon, the rusty sidearm, is pretty bad. Just shitty handgun, low spread, or a very high spread. But the crossbow is fucking amazing.
Yeah, it's really good. It doesn't seem good at first, but because you have to reload after every shot. But it's really precise, really good range, and it kills enemies on the first floor basically in one hit. And it kills enemies on the second floor in 2 hits.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So it's a functional boss killer as well. If you end up having to fight the boss with it, it's fine. She also starts with kind of a subtle touch as a dog who will spot mimics for you, which is really good when you first start out the game. And then has a 5% chance of finding a pickup when a room is cleared.
Yeah.
And 5% is pretty low, but you're doing a lot of rooms.
Yeah. The floors are big.
You will roll those 20s.
Yeah.
It will make a difference over a course of a run. You can also pet the dog. That was something they added in an update, which is nice.
Yeah, I never thought to pet the dog, but then again, the dog just kind of blended into the scenery for me. So judge me as a monster if you must.
I like that the item that you get for the dog is a tennis ball. That's what represents the dog in your inventory.
Love that.
That's very cute to me.
Yeah, love the hunter. Hunter is what I was able to do the most good with. Like, the crossbow stays really good for the first couple of floors. That is not true for literally any other starting weapon that you'll see in the basic 4. And yeah, that 5% chance is just it's a good resource boon that I miss when I'm playing other characters.
Yeah, the hunter's really good. I've had the most luck with the hunter out of the basic characters for sure. Yeah.
I've had the next most luck with the marine, but that I think is because the marine is made maybe as a little bit of a noob trap.
Yeah, the marine is your starter character. You start with an armor point. So that little bit of extra survivability is going to let you see more of the Gungeon as you're starting. You start with a good starting weapon. So the Marine sidearm is actually really good. Has a low rate of fire, but has a large clip and is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
You have an active item, which is a supply drop, which brings in a full ammo pickup. This used to be much more valuable, but is still handy. But the biggest deal is he has a passive item called military training, which gives you faster reload, smaller spread, and reduced charge time on your items, or rather on your guns. This is great.
Yeah.
Like extra accuracy is really, really huge in in this game because it applies to anything that spreads, which includes shotguns.
Yes.
So when you have something that fires in a spread, if you have higher accuracy, it's a tighter spread.
Yeah.
Military training is very good in this game.
Yeah. So this has, just a really high floor for starting you out with with those advantages, but it doesn't seem to have like the acceleration attached to it that the extra resources that the hunter or the pilot would give you.
Yeah. And, just you can't really underestimate one-shotting things on the first floor. When you are, when you have that pretty much mastered and you're doing it as a formality.
Yes.
The pilot, and also these are all themed as well.
Yeah.
The convict, as we mentioned, the hunter is kind of like, she's a lady in a cloak with a crossbow and a dog. She's vaguely, her ending, I can't tell, like she fights a Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's a big Wolfenstein kind of homage. Her ending is she has been pulled forward from the past, like she was put into cryogenic stasis by the mad scientist that she kills in her past.
Yeah, Wolfclaw. But it's not very Nazi-y.
Right.
And then the Marine is Doom Guy. And then the pilot is Han Solo / Firefly Guy.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have a hard time with the pilot as well. He's very luck-based. So you start off pretty shitty because you just have one gun, the Rogue Special, which is horrible.
Oh my god!
Worst starting gun.
It's like it only goes like a quarter of the way across the screen. Like it's the only gun really where the range was a noticeable problem for me, actually. Like even more so than like with a shotgun, if it was something as spread, like okay, I'm not going to be able to hit something that's really far away, but maybe there's a chance. No, with this, the projectiles just disappear when they get a couple of inches from you on the screen. It's not good.
Really shitty.
Yeah.
He has the most items though.
Yeah.
Because he has an active item, Trusty Lockpicks, which allows you to attempt to pick a lock. You have a 50-50 chance of bypassing it, but if that doesn't work, the lock jams.
Yes.
And you cannot open it. So it's a nice little last ditch effort. Disarming Personality, which gives you a shop discount, and then Hidden Compartment, which allows you to have a second active item and increases the ammo capacity for all your guns by 10%.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good item, but I find the pilot really difficult if I don't get a good gun on the first floor.
Yes. That is what got me as well. It would, like I could get past the first floor, but it put me into a very bad position resource wise on the second floor, health wise. Yeah. There's a fifth character who is technically available for you, but I never played this in co-op, and it is kind of the like even in text, it is meant to be like the little brother character.
Yes, the cultist, who has an ending and everything. I haven't played as the cultist either, because I never played this co-op.
Isn't the ending that you just fight? It's just PvP between the co-op. Just like I'm tired of being number two. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he gets tired of being the little brother. It's very cute.
Yeah.
You start with a dart gun, which is just a basic pistol, an item that will restore all your companion's health, and then a really powerful item called number 2, which is if you're the only person alive, you have this huge stat buff.
Yeah.
It doubles your speed. And you do a lot more damage. This is incredibly overpowered. And there are ways to do a single player game as the cultist with a dead first player. I haven't fucked around with that though. I just kind of read about it.
I just this isn't the kind of game that I would want to play co-op, but then again, I don't play most things co-op. So, but I like the theming around the cultist. That is fun. There are other characters, but I kind of have like a post-game section for us here after we kind of talk about the first 5 chambers.
Yeah. I'll kind of give the basic rundown on those guys.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about every gun and item in the game.
That would be crazy.
We're going to talk about some. That would be everything to Gungeon, the podcast where Will and I. But instead, we're going to just kind of talk about them in generalities. We'll probably call out some specific ones. But we will mostly be, saying, hey, if you want to learn about all these, go to the wiki.
Yeah.
It would be silly to list them all.
Yeah. Or just play the game. Like, I don't know. I recommend playing this.
Yeah. Check it out. It's fun to discover a new gun and be like, what does this do? What is this like?
Even if it's underwhelming, it's probably funny. So, yeah. So a video that you sent me, I forget who made that, kind of said something that really unlocked the game for me, which is that broadly there are 2 types of guns in the game. There are room clearing guns and there are boss killing guns.
Yes. Room clearing guns fire very quickly. A lot of times they'll have status effects. They'll take out multiple enemies. They have a lot of ammo.
Yeah.
And boss killing guns are the opposite. Like if you find a gun that has 20 bullets, it's probably a boss killing gun.
Yes.
You want to save that because it does a lot of damage and you don't want to waste it on scrubs.
Right. The YouTube creator that made that hour-long kind of like tips video is Abe Clancy is the name of that person. It's a little bit outdated. But yes. Many Gungeon YouTubers. I liked his work the best of what I saw. But yes, recognizing the distinction will, let you conserve your ammo accordingly. So guns will vary. One of the main ways that they're going to differ from each other, even before you get into like some of the wackiest stuff, is the firing type. So we can talk about those. Like automatic guns will, fire continuously while you hold down the button, whereas semi-automatic weapons will fire when held, but will fire faster if tapped. I almost never held the button down. I was always a tapper in this.
Yeah, that's the pro strat. Because you'll fire faster and you'll automatically reload when you get to the end of the clip. The only way this can ever become a problem is if you have a gun where the first or last bullet does something special.
Yes.
And you want to be using that more meaningfully. There are also charge weapons. So you hold the button to charge a shot and then release. Sometimes this can also pair with semi-automatic weapons. So like the Mega Hand, you can just tap it, but you don't want to do that. You want to charge it to do the big Mega Man. Mega Buster Blast. Beam weapons, which of course fire a beam, and then burst weapons where a single click will do multiple bullets. Then there are also single shot things where you have to reload between each bullet.
Like the RPG stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then weird ones.
Yes.
Then the strange ones that do, did you ever find the lamp?
No, I never found the lamp.
The lamp's incredible. It's a lamp, and you rub it, and it sends a little puff of bullet out. And if you get 3 of them on the same enemy, a genie appears and gives them an uppercut. Because you do the 3 wishes for the genie to fight.
Oh, that is so good.
There's like a can of compressed air that fires a shark as well. That's really good.
Okay.
And it's just like a little bit through the water, and then a shark comes out of the ground and bites him. Things like that, where it doesn't quite correspond. To any of these things.
Like there are other things I even forgot to make a note about, but just like damage types. So like damage over time stuff, either the poison or like flame. Or freezing, enemies can be frozen and they will slow down. Different guns work like that. Like whether or not a gun shoots goop is pretty important as well. Yes,
Goop being any kind of liquid.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And there are specific liquids. Like there is a gun called the Jurassic or the Fossil gun that is a dinosaur skull that just shoots oil on the ground. And then when you reload, it has a very short range little burst of fire that won't do any damage, but will light the oil on fire.
Yeah.
And anything that shoots in a beam like that can cover the whole screen pretty quickly. So that's a really fun, like high risk, high reward item where you can basically set the floor on fire.
Yeah.
But you also, the way that you avoid being on fire, you have a little meter that fills up and you have to roll to put it down. You have to stop, drop, and roll to stop that. Poison, you have to get out of it. With fire, you can just keep rolling around to not be setting on fire.
Yeah.
It's really neat. And it works with the kind of synergies as we start to talk about items because, you can set the whole floor on fire. You can also become immune to fire fairly easily.
Yeah.
So all advantage for you.
Yeah. There are other things, bullets, certain weapons can have piercing bullets, which means that they will go through a bunch of enemies. Projectiles that you shoot can be explosive. Explosives are actually really important for clearing projectiles. Like, if you fire a well-timed, well-placed explosive, will like stop a whole row or stop a whole section of a boss enemy's firing pattern. Right?
It destroys bullets.
Yeah.
And there are many more which we'll kind of bring up as we go, but they're incredibly cool and fun. There are a bunch that are just guns as well.
Yeah,
like it's not like you're find, but they're fairly rare. The minority is just a gun.
Yes.
The majority have either a joke or a cool gimmick to them, or a cool secret.
Yeah,
or at least cool synergies. that you can get.
You know, the origami, which can fire like will just fire like paper airplanes and stuff. But if you like pick up different paper items, it will synergize, and we'll talk about synergies a little bit later.
And just like endlessly creative. Like when you the origami, when you reload, you rebuild. You make like a little crane out of it. You rebuild it in your little animation.
Yeah.
Or the the lowercase r, which I mentioned, when you reload, it says reload, and then the words have to go across the little bottom in your little marker. It says reload.
Yeah.
It turns into those letters.
I
really,
love
really neat stuff.
I love the mailbox. Like that's a good example of a weapon that'll have a different effect for its last bullet, because the individual bullets, it's a pretty, it's a semi-automatic weapon, fires with a big spread because you're shooting envelopes. It's just mail, pieces of mail, but the last bullet is always a package bomb. It's always it's always a suspicious package. Oftentimes it's explosive, but like other times it will like explode and create like and cover an area with like poison goop or any of the other stuff. It's really good. It's pretty chaotic. You can't really rely on it, but it actually ends up being very good as a room clearer, right?
Yes. Yeah. Really, really cool. There's a barrel, which is really great, which you hold, and then a fish comes out of it. It shoots fish, which when they hit enemies, they'll confuse them.
Yep.
Because you're shooting fish at them, and they'll stay on the screen. They'll just be puddles of water and just like fish flopping around on the screen. And then when we talk about synergies, you can get a synergy where a fish pokes its head out and shoots a gun from the barrel, which is just like really fucking cute.
Yeah.
And God damn it. Items are also really fun, a little bit less like goofy and creative, but very powerful.
Right.
These, we are active and passive, as we mentioned before. And there's a really wide variety.
A bunch. Yeah. I did my best to like put them into broad categories here. So like for active use items, like, a good number of them will be used for healing, like different kinds there. Many of them are explosives of different kinds, either like something that you plant, like a bomb or a mine, or like even just calling down missile strikes and stuff like that. Decoys end up being extremely powerful, actually.
Yeah, there's a few really good decoy items. You can also use them to steal from the shop. Yeah. Which we'll talk about when we talk about NPCs, which are really good. So active items, you tend to either do a bunch of damage or give you an effect like that. There are a couple of different ones. You can get a bottle so you can pick up, hold pickups for later. This was more useful before they added the save for later function.
Yeah. Oh, that was a patch
into the game. The save for later thing was, that came in on a patch.
Okay.
But passives are kind of where it's at.
Yes.
To me. These are things like really common items are like amulets, which are things that give you an extra blank per floor and then give your blanks different effects.
Yeah.
So when you blank, it sets fire to every enemy in the room.
Right.
For example, something like that. This doesn't seem powerful until you realize that you can get things that allow you to do blanks like significantly more often.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's Guan stones as well.
I don't understand
which is a stretch of it's an ion stone from D&D, but it's kind of like gun.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that is a stretch, isn't it?
It's a real stretch.
Yeah.
But those will give you a little shield that like rotates around you. A little stone that rotates around you that'll block bullets.
Yes.
And give you extra effects as well. So like there's like the pure Guan stone, which makes you immune to poison and also gives you a little buddy.
Yeah. There's kind of a counterpart to those amulets, which are these, they're like blueprints that add effects to table flips. I always like
table tacks.
Yeah, the table tacks. I like those as well. Because lets you fire, a pretty powerful effect a couple times per room if a table happens to be in there, and tables are pretty common.
Yeah, they're really, depending on which one you get, those can be really good. Yeah. Like table tech blank is really powerful.
No.
Table tech money is cool if you get it for free.
No.
It flips every table in the room, but it gives you a chance to find money under all of them.
Yeah.
And just being able to flip every table at once is kind of neat. And then also, this will really add up to money.
Yes.
Quite a bit of money when you do it. Did you, I love the Gundromeda strain. It's really creative.
I only read a description of that. It reduces the overall health of all your enemies by a quarter.
Every enemy. Yeah. In the entire game. Like imagine, like that's incredible.
Does it? That can't apply to bosses, can it?
It does. Yeah. It applies
Holy
to everything.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah. Everything is weaker if you get the Gundromeda strain. Damage ups are incredibly good. Like when we talk about the different tiers of weapons, not necessarily corresponding to how good they are. Like I think it's a C tier item to get the +1 bullets.
Yeah.
But bullets +1 are great. Like it's
Yeah.
just more damage, straight up damage up.
Yeah, I mean, like where it's really at for me is the is the bullet upgrades, like fat bullets. You sign me up,
Fat
buddy.
bullets are great.
Love that.
Yeah.
Like not just not just because they're bigger and it's easier to hit, but like they do so much more damage.
Yep. And they're cool trade-offs. Like you get fat bullets and you have less ammo capacity.
Yeah.
And your bullets move slower, but they just do a lot more damage. And damage is of course king because it's a roguelike.
Yes.
Special attention needs to be paid to the clone as an item.
I never got this, but it seems like a real, I mean, not a game breaker because, you still die and go back, but go ahead and describe what it does.
So the clone is when you die, you start back at the first floor again, but with all of your stuff. So like clone runs, when you're playing them and you've played the game for a little while, they're just indulgences to see how powerful you can get. Like you get to the end of the game with your clone, then kill yourself and then just sweep the first several floors, like picking up new items again with no resource scarcity.
Right.
Just to become this like absolute juggernaut. But you can still you can run into this ordinarily, and this can be the thing that like unlocks a hard challenge for you.
Yeah.
I think it was a clone run the time that I beat the Gunslingers past.
Okay.
Which is really hard. That's a really tricky boss.
Yeah.
And I think also a clone run the time that I got the flawless round on the dragon.
Okay.
So it's really easy to get flawlesses if you're going in with endgame equipment.
Of course.
On the first floor. So you just get like a lot of achievements and stuff. It's really rare, but it's like a really good item.
Yeah.
Always pick it up.
Yeah. One that ended up making a pretty big difference for me was the wax wings that you get. These let you fly. It's kind of like the angel wings in Isaac. This isn't a big deal on the first two floors, but like if you are able to maneuver without worrying about falling into a pitfall or worrying about stepping onto a trap, it just gives you more possibilities.
Or fire or poison. Like you're immune from those floor effects.
Yeah.
There's also like a bunch of really kind of like cool things that I feel like a lesser developer would think is cheating and get rid of.
Yeah.
So like if you're flying, there's a target shooting game you can do. And if you're flying, you can just go up to the targets and shoot them. Like the guy's standing right there, but it's like, yeah, you had a cool item, have the treat.
Nothing in the rule book says. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the right attitude, I think.
Yeah.
To me to let you kind of do that. And then in Advanced Gungeons and Dragons, they had synergies.
Yeah.
And this is what was kind of missing. Like this is a big thing in Isaac is like, they're not official synergies. Like items don't tend to work differently other than transformations, but like items will work well together.
Yeah.
Prior to this update, Gungeon items kind of were an island. Now they will be radically transformed based on picking up combinations of items. And this is just incredible. Like the amount of work that went into this is just nuts.
I mean, so, you think about it anyway, like the testing burden of adding a new item to this, to this game generally. Like, okay, like I need to make sure that this doesn't break when I use this item of hundreds with this many hundreds of other guns. But now we're going to go and look at all of these combinations and say, can we put these together to make either a good joke or to make something that is a massive upgrade if you happen to roll the dice and coincidentally get these two things together.
And there are hundreds of them.
Yep.
And they are not just like, oh, this does extra damage.
No.
So like there's two cold guns. There's the Cold 45 and the Frost Giant. And if you get both of those, you get a synergy called Wise Bullet Crying, which when you attack an enemy that's frozen, a Yeti comes out and attacks the enemy. So they made it like a whole Yeti sprite, like asset to pop out just for the off chance that you get both of these guns during a run.
Yeah.
That's great.
Just nuts.
Yeah. I love that so much.
Yeah, and like there's so many. I'm going up and down the list here. I'm trying to like remember some of like the good ones that I've gotten, and it's really hard. It's very hard to actually could come up with one just out of nowhere. So I apologize for that.
No, well, just because you get a lot of them and they don't tell you what they do. They just pop up on the screen. So you need to look them up on the wiki if you want. To find that. But they're very creative. Like there's a badge that you get, which gives you a little police officer that hangs out with you as a familiar. And then when he dies, he gives you a very long speech about being close to retirement, and you get an item called Vengeance, which is a passive that gives you plus damage. But if you get any of these android items that are associated with androids, he becomes a RoboCop and he can't die. So it's like a totally different asset. Or like this isn't really a synergy, but it's got to be worth talking about at some point. Did you ever get Sir Junkin?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So like when you pick up junk, which is like if you smash open a chest rather than use a key, you tend to find junk, which you can sell, but also every once in a while it'll be like, wait, what is this? And it's a little guy who follows around, and the more junk you have, the more powerful he becomes. Until eventually he becomes like a paladin. Like, so if you have a Junkin run, you then want to smash chest to power up your buddy rather than open them up. And you can get different kinds of junk that will give him superpowers as well, turning him into like various mechs and shit. And then if he is powerful enough, when you get to the final screen where it shows who won, it shows you in the background giving him a thumbs up. and he takes the hero pose.
It's
so
really
good.
Great. Yeah.
Like they so much like a little detail packed into this. In the way these things interact, like it's just so fucking impressive to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with the Mega Hand, when I got that, it's very easy to get synergies with that because if you get the Mega Hand with the camera, which is just a weapon that seemed like, I don't know, it was useless to me. So I figured maybe there's a completely broken way to use it. But it'll synergize with the Mega Hand and the effect is called Get Equipped with F, and it will stop time for a short little bit because but by getting a flash with the Mega Hand, it's like you got Flashman's weapon in Mega Man 2.
I love that all of them are from Mega Man 2.
Yep.
Like it's very specifically the Mega Hand from Mega Hand 2. Or Mega Man 2.
Yeah.
That makes me very happy. So those are really easy to get, and you can switch between them whenever you want with that one. Like you tap a button.
Yep.
To switch between them, which is really weird. There's one of those for each boss.
Yeah.
So you can get equipped with A, B, C, F, H, M, Q, and W.
And like if you have the mega hand and a gun called the Mahogany, you get the Woodman power up. You get the leaf shield. Which acts like the leaf shield. Like, I don't know. Like, okay, let's pay a pixel. Let's pay a sprite artist to put that into the game because I don't know. It seems clever. Like we could, so let's do it.
The amount of care is just incredible.
Yeah.
In this, absolutely incredible. I can't remember which one it is, but one of the things turns the trash cannon, which is a pretty bad gun. It's just a trash can and it shoots a big explosion of poison, but it's very easy to poison yourself. Turns it into a recycling bin, and it does like incredible damage. It becomes like an endgame weapon. It just really, really efficacious and cool. So flavor and power.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. The game doesn't tell you what they do. They're always going to be better. But depending on what kind of player you are, you can either try to figure it out or you can just keep the wiki open. And be like, okay, these things are good together. I want to keep this. Really, really fun. Made a huge difference in the game. Like this is a better game than when it came out.
I couldn't imagine playing this without these, actually.
Way less fun.
So do you want to talk about some NPCs?
Let's do
it.
As we mentioned, you free them as you go. You find specific keys to free them from their cells. There are a lot of them. And some of them are more minor than others.
Yes.
So
I only listed here the ones that had strong mechanics associated with them. I didn't get all the NPCs. Obviously, there's some that only show up like after you've cleared a past and whatnot. So if I forgot anything, please let me know, Gary. The most important one is Bello, your shopkeeper, your buff mustachioed guy who occasionally hangs out with the cell creep. Bello has a sewer friend.
The cell creep who allows you to sell things.
Yeah.
This is your shopkeep. in typical roguelike fashion. You cannot fire a gun in the shop, and you can't kill him. Unlike, say, like Spelunky or what have you.
You can fire the gun in the shop, but he gets really mad if you do.
He gets mad. Yeah. You can eventually he'll raise his prices, and eventually you'll just close off shops for the whole game. What was really fun for me to discover is that you can steal from him. It's difficult. And you can't just do it. You have to have certain items, but the way that you do it is very creative. Like, obviously, you can do it by, freezing time, but you can also do it by like throwing a chaff grenade or leaving a decoy somewhere so he looks at the decoy, or using a grappling hook from across the room. You can steal, and you steal the one time, you get curse, and he's fine with it. If you steal twice, you'll fuck things up. You have more of a chance to fail and close down the shop.
Does he rename your
just
character
stop you from
Thief?
cleaning it out. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I never wanted to mess with them. I didn't want to lose shop privileges.
It's a tricky thing.
Yeah,
we can do that. The cell creep you cannot steal from. Obviously, you just give them things from the floor. You drop things on the floor, and they'll give you money.
No, there's another kind of shop. The shop where you spend your hegemony bucks. You unlock this. Like, this was really early on, like the first 5 runs or so for me. The NPC here is Ox and Cadence. Ox is a big, large, broken robot who is programmed to be kind to you. And Cadence is just a small woman who is not a customer-focused person. But they operate that shop up in the breach.
Yes. And this is how you're going to kind of operate your meta progression.
Yeah.
The way this works is once you buy out a shop, then it will reload with new things. So you're going to want to prioritize the stuff that looks cool.
Yes.
That you can afford, but eventually you'll have to buy it all.
Yeah.
Here. Frifle and the Grey Mouser you can rescue. They give you hunting quests. So they say, like, kill 10 of this specific item, and then we'll unlock an item for you. You'll kind of do this naturally, but it's always fun to check in.
Yeah.
And the game gives you a heads up, like when you've completed a hunting quest.
Yeah, I like that.
Tinker, we mentioned, who's the shortcut guy. The guy's kind of a prick.
Yep. I guess I didn't realize that you could get to him just by dropping. So your elevator is just a bullet that fires down onto the floor. If you go back after you leave that room and just like fall down the chamber, he'll be down there working on stuff, and he will tell you what he needs in order to repair that elevator. But it's a chump bet. Don't do it unless you want those items, in which case do.
Yeah, it's worth doing because you get cool items, but I don't use the shortcuts.
Yeah.
Winchester is really fun. Whenever Winchester shows up, that's a fun time. He operates a shooting range where you have to kind of do angles, like you have to ricochet shots off of into different patterns at targets, and depending on how many targets you hit, you get a better chest.
Yeah.
At the end. You have to pay to play this game, but it's almost always worth it.
Right.
Even if you get one target, you'll get a chest, which is probably worth the 25 shells or whatever you spent there. But if you can get all of them, especially if you can fly, you can easily get all of them.
Yeah.
You'll get a red or a black chest.
Yeah.
Which are huge.
Big deal. Yeah. Similar thing, what you always want to do is take the deal when the gunsling king, and I love this, Man Cervantes.
Yeah, Man Cervantes.
It's so good. You rescue these folks, and they will appear outside of particular challenge rooms in the dungeon, and the king will say, "I will wager that a person of profane birth such as yourself cannot," and then clear this next room without being hit, or cannot clear this next room using only a derringer, which is powerful weak.
Yeah.
It's always something a little bit like that. Good late season Simpsons poll. Powerful weak derringers.
Very powerful weak. Yeah. And you can when you do this, if you can complete it successfully, you get your money back and an item.
Yes.
Get a gun. So these are always worth doing. This is a bonus when this shows up. There is the Lost Adventurer, who is a little Zelda or a little Link.
Yeah.
Who is lost, and if you map out the entire floor, he gives you an item. So it's kind of an incentive to explore everything.
Yep.
Patches and Mendy, who are 2 ladies who will heal you. The way they do this is very funny.
Yep.
They break a fairy jar over your head, a Zelda fairy jar.
Yeah.
Telling you, like, this may hurt a little bit. Smash. And it's really good.
Yep. That was my other laugh out loud moment in this was when they did that. I don't know what species Patches and Mendy, like the vampire is one of these as well, but just that incredibly lanky character design is really good and like not of a piece with the rest of the world.
Yeah, they're weirdos.
Yeah.
Real lifesaver when these guys can show up, though.
Yeah, it's a full heal, and that may be a lot if you have a really high health cap. And then I've got these two NPCs that let you do different modes. So you can unlock a weird dude named Bowler, who lets you start rainbow runs. We'll talk about those in the next header, like strange mechanics. Then you also have Daisuke, which lets you do challenge modes.
Yeah, who's a giant animatronic like D20.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. There's a couple other characters that you might be further down the road. Other merchants for the breach that you unlock that do different kinds of theme weapons. So there's like a troll that will do military themed weapons, and then once you unlock them, they'll show up in the Gungeon as well.
Okay.
So you kind of get there's a goop themed weapons guy, and there's a key themed weapon guy who I can't remember his name, but he uses keys as currency.
Okay.
So you have to pay him in keys, but you get really powerful things from him. You can get the master key kind of thing, which unlocks all doors.
Gotcha.
And then you can also get the A key 47, which shoots keys that unlock things, and the mimic tooth necklace, which turns every chest into a mimic.
Oh.
Which, as we'll talk about, is actually can be good because you don't need a key to open a mimic. There's also Cursula, who sells cursed items. Who will show up in the Gungeon, and they'll just be our regular items at a discount, but you get a curse when you get them.
Gotcha.
And there's a couple that I have only seen maybe once or twice.
Okay.
Like there's 3 witches you can run into, and you trade a gun for a new gun, and you get some curse, but it's only come up once for me. And there's like an old man who will just give you an item, and I don't think I've ever seen that.
Huh.
And then in terms of game modes, there's also Tronic, the Hedgehog or whatever he's called, who can do turbo mode, which everything is faster.
Okay.
I find turbo mode really hard. I don't do it.
Yeah.
So.
I find that the game is paced very well as it is. Thank you.
Yes.
Sanic. Poor man. I don't know. Yeah.
No, poor man Sanic.
Let's talk about some of these miscellaneous mechanics, because a lot of those dealt with curse. Curse is not explained whatsoever, but it affects a lot.
It's an invisible stat.
Yeah.
You have a curse from 0 to 10, and as your curse increases, you get a couple different effects. You get more money picked up. You get less of a chance of getting a chest after a room, but increases the preponderance of jammed enemies. These are like champion versions.
Yeah.
They're red. They shoot red bullets. They do a full heart when they hit you. They have more health. And if you get 10 curse, you spawn a Grim Reaper that chases you forever.
From room to room.
And from floor to floor.
Yeah.
Very hard to beat with the game with 10 curse.
Yeah. So you want to keep it at 9 if you can help it.
A little bit of curse is really good.
Yeah.
It will charge your economy. One of the first things I do whenever I play a run is try to find a way to increase my curse in the first couple floors.
Yeah.
Just to get it to 2 or 3. The occasional jammed enemy is definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Bosses can be jammed, which is a huge bummer.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard, but it's unlikely at low curse.
Yeah. Kind of the converse of that is coolness. What I was able to determine is that coolness is mostly related to what weapons you're holding. Like I could not, when I was looking around, see ways to increase that by like an act that you can do. Good.
Yeah, it's not an act. It's like certain items will increase it. And then there are items that allow you to do it as an active. So like you can find cigarettes, and then when you use them, it takes half a heart and gives you a point of coolness.
Yeah.
So you can sit there and smoke and like get coolness to go up.
Unless you think that this is only giving bad messages that smoking is cool. That gives you 1 coolness, I believe. You get 3 coolness by carrying a ballot around.
Yeah, by voting.
Yeah,
because voting is cool.
Yeah.
The coolness reduces the cooldown on your items, and then increases the chance of getting pickups at the end of room. So not money, which come from enemies, but hearts and keys and stuff.
Yeah.
So you want high coolness and a little bit of curse. There's also a third hidden stat called magnificence,
Okay.
which is when you get like an S rank item, you're less likely to get S rank items.
Okay.
Very similar. There's a similar mechanic in Isaac as well, but that's called magnificence.
Yes, that makes a little bit of sense. Like just a little bit of rubber banding. There's probably something that, like, if you haven't paid, I mean, the converse of that is if you haven't found a good item, you are more likely to get a good item. Let's say.
Yeah, and as the floors go on, the chest average goes up.
Yes.
So on the first floor, you have less of a chance of getting like a red chest, but as you go further on, you have more of a chance of getting a really high value chest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about gun munchers.
Yeah, munchers. Occasionally you'll just find these things. These are little animated boxes that will consume 2 guns in exchange for a new fully loaded gun. This is kind of a way to turn lemons into lemonade. If I got the R or if I got the camera, something like that, let's just trade those bad boys up and, roll the dice. But also the fact that the new gun is fully loaded is also a pretty big deal.
Yes.
Like, this is a bad gun. It is empty. I do not see myself using an ammo drop for this. So I will trade it away gladly in order to get something new.
Yeah. The gun you'll get will tend to be around the same level, but can sometimes jump up a level. So you can sometimes get a better gun than you traded in. And each tier is not, firm. Like, it's not like all D tier game guns are created equal here. Later floors introduce the evil gun muncher. I love the evil gun muncher who just takes and takes and takes and takes.
I love it.
Until he eventually gives you a very good gun, but it's random when he'll do it.
Okay.
So it just keeps saying like he's still hungry.
Ooh.
And you keep throwing things into him. We should talk about mimics here.
We should, yes. I forgot to put them in. Mimics, so there are 2 of these. They're the ones that will turn into monsters that you have to fight in the treasure rooms. Mostly, these which are very small, like the treasure rooms. Difficult, catches you off guard early on when you're not ready to accept the possibility that a chest will turn into a monster. Explain kind of some of the mechanics around the mimics for me.
Well, really importantly, you can shoot them to trigger them, but if you try to open them, they will eat your key.
Yes.
So spotting a mimic is really good. Like Dark Souls, they breathe. So if you watch them, they'll open their mouth a little bit. The dog will bark at them, but it is worth like just shooting a chest just once when you see it. The good thing about mimics is if you shoot them, you don't need to use a key. So if you fight a mimic, their difficulty corresponds to the chest type. So like a black chest or a red chest mimic is much harder than a blue or brown chest mimic.
Yeah,
they get faster, more health, more complicated bullet patterns. But mimics are advantageous because you don't have to use keys.
Yeah.
So you can guarantee to get that item there. There are also mimics in the wall or wall mimics, sections of wall that will come out and attack you. They look like those like thwomps, those wall thwomps.
Yeah, like the cubes you get later on. Yeah.
There are candles that will turn into fairies.
Oh yeah, I saw
mimics.
that. Yeah, and there's also the ones the fairies that'll pop out of jars when you break them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's also a boss that is a mimic.
Yeah.
That is the door to a boss room. So they basically wanted to make everything a mimic that they could. It was part of the things I saw in an interview. And that's what this is about.
I can appreciate that.
So they love mimics as much as I do.
Yeah.
So
as much as anyone ought to. I said
just to do a quick bit of a buzz marketing goal.
Okay.
Have you seen the D&D figurines of adorable power?
No.
Vinyl toys. They're vinyl toys of classic D&D monsters, and they're pretty cool.
Ooh, I've got those
I got
new
myself
shelves.
a mimic. I got a mimic and a gazer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, a little bit of Funko energy on these, but I will ignore that for right now.
They don't have the eyes. Well, the humanoid ones kind of have the eyes.
Yeah,
but the mimic and the beholder ones don't look Funko Pop to me.
Yeah. No. Okay, I need to look around at this. Oh, and these mimics are cool. Did you get the pastel one or the shiny one?
I got the pastel one.
Gotcha.
That was the one that they had available where I bought it.
Yeah. Cool. I will keep my eye out. When I said there are 2 different kinds of mimics, what I also meant was some chests will have fuses on them.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and they will blow up if you do not get to them in time.
You can douse the fuse if you have water or goo
Yes.
of some kind, but otherwise you have to make a split decision
Mm-hmm.
whether you open it or not.
Right.
There are shrines
Yeah.
that pop up. There's a wide variety of these, and they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to get them, and they're very, wide variety of effects.
Right. Most of them, many of them, you end up sacrificing your maximum health, like you lose a heart container, or you sacrifice an item to get this lasting boon. And some of them can be pretty good, or drastically change things. So like the blood shrine was one that came up pretty often for me, actually. You sacrifice a maximum heart off of whatever you have, but certain enemies will begin to glow red. And if you stand near them, and it's pretty generous what is, quote unquote near, you will draw the redness away from them, and you can refill hearts off of that.
Yeah, turning you into a type of vampire.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. There's one where you sacrifice a heart to get a companion character, like a familiar character. Basically an item, but the familiars tend to be pretty good. In this, there's one of the character YV from Nuclear Throne, which gives you a chance to double your bullets. And that one takes money.
Yeah.
A YV shrine is great. You want to spend all your money on the floor on that.
Yeah. Just a whole bunch of these. Are there any others that stick out for you?
The only other one that I think is there's one where it says, you will get a great reward, and then it says, and the rest is blank.
Okay.
And that is a hint to use a blank, and you get a chance of getting a chest.
Yes.
There's a couple little puzzly ones like that.
Yeah. One of the big ones is the Shrine of Dice, which it's pretty good. You just get a random effect off of it. There's a large number of them. They're separated between good and bad effects. If you do if you do 3 of these, that will unlock the NPC Dice Guy, and that unlocks the challenge modes.
Yeah, and the challenge modes are interesting. They're not just more hit points, more damage for your enemies. They're really fucking obnoxious. Like there are things like whenever you miss a shot, if a shot hits a wall, it creates a little blob.
Yeah.
And that's fucking horrible because, a lot of these guns are designed to miss.
Yep.
A lot. Or there's one where the hammers from the 5th floor will come down randomly.
Oh God.
Which is really, really difficult shit. I don't really like challenge mode. I'm not that level of gamer.
No. The one that seemed most pervasive, just from the video that I watched, was like the ones that make bosses harder, like double the bullets that they put out, stuff like that. Change their patterns significantly. It seemed like a lot.
Some of them are unique. So like the wallmonger, for example, will have 2 snipers on the wall.
Yeah.
Positioned. Like, that's really neat, but like also
hard. That's a hard boss.
The final little bit we should talk about here is secret rooms.
Yeah, I meant to talk about that here. Yeah.
Yeah. Where there are each floor has a secret room, except for one of the hidden floors has a couple. But these are difficult to find. When you shoot the wall only with a non-unlimited ammo weapon, you'll get a little crack in the wall. And if you use a blank, you get to bust into that secret room. These contain a wide variety of things. Yeah. These can be chest, pickups, hearts, etc. It's generally worth trying to get them, but only if you get to the you've already fought the boss, because you want to save those blanks to try to flawless the boss.
Yes,
if you can. Yeah. If you don't flawless the boss and you have blanks left, you did something wrong. Like use your blanks.
Yes, because you're going to get more of them. It'll go back up to 2 if you're at 0. So do not leave that money on the table. I found myself, so the little Isaac that I've played, I really end up being a secret room hunter. Why not? Also, with the way that Isaac levels are laid out, kind of that Zelda 1 style, it's very easy to just kind of intuit where one of them might be. Like you just kind of get a little bit of a horse sense for that. Yeah. But here, not so much. Really, in the time, I only did like a couple. It was not a compulsion to like go after them.
You don't need them as much. And there are rules that they follow, but it's not as easy to determine where they're at as it is with Isaac.
Yeah.
They basically can be anywhere where there's space for them.
Right.
And the wall is clear.
Right.
So they tend to be in item rooms. They tend to be in the final room before you go down. They tend to be in the shop. But it's always, a good idea just to blow your blanks there.
Yeah.
If you're not sure. at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, let's start talking about the chambers and the bosses and such.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about every one of these or every one of these enemies in detail.
No,
because there's a lot of them. But we're going to kind of hit some highlights, and we'll talk about the bosses.
Yes.
There's a brief tutorial that you'll do.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I totally forgot to put the tutorial in with Sir Manuel, right?
Yeah, Sir Manuel, who's very cute, who later shows up as Monster Manuel as a thing, which is a reference to a typo in The Binding of Isaac.
Ooh.
The Monster Manual item was originally called Monster Manuel.
I want to meet that guy.
But yeah, it's great. Sir Manuel is obviously a pun of like user Manuel.
Yeah.
Who basically just teaches you about dodge rolling. There's a little fun, unique boss fight, and there's lore. There are kind of cute little backstories to a lot of these characters. The nature of roguelikes for me is I tend to ignore that stuff.
Yeah.
Which might be part of why Hades didn't click as hard as it could for me. But going through this, finding the secret room inside the tutorial and beating the boss of the tutorial without being hit do give you rewards.
Yes. Yeah, Sir Manuel was another person who was drawn to the Gungeon like you, but he was betrayed by his friend.
Yeah, Blockner. Yeah. Who gives you the gun later? The betrayer's shield, actually a gun. And their whole thing is this like conflict between people who think you should block and people who think you should dodge. Sir Manuel is the dodge advocate, and Blockner creates a lot of shield-based bullet patterns and stuff, and loves shields.
Yes.
So
nice.
No.
Oh, there's a synergy. There's that I wanted to mention. You can find the maiden shield, and there's also the knight's gun, which is shaped like a shovel. That has a shovel knight based effect. Sorry, just the concept between
you dig up treasure.
Yeah, it's neat. Anyway. You're probably not going to find one of those in Chamber 1, Keeper of the Lead Lord. That would be really weird. This is the easiest floor. Naturally here it's styled like a castle. You've got libraries and gardens and stuff like that. The rooms are very sparsely filled with enemies. Like sometimes it'll just be a straight up empty room. Or like a room with like one or two people in here. It quickly becomes apparent that this is meant to be a slow ramp up for you, even if it doesn't feel like that at the start.
Very Green Hill Zone.
Yes.
You're fighting a lot of like regular bulletkin who just kind of waddle towards you very cutely and shoot slowly. Shotgunkin, which are a little bit trickier, and there are two different kinds.
Yeah.
Ones that shoot two waves and ones that blow up in a spread. But the spread that they fire is pretty easy to dodge.
Yeah, like the projectiles at this point with these basic enemies, they move very slowly. That is one of the main ways that the game gets more difficult. Is bullets that move faster, harder to dodge. Who'da thunk? You do get a bullet or a ghost down here. You get hollow points. Which is fun. Teleports around.
Yeah.
In addition to the bats, which are really annoying. Small enemies give me fits in this. They generally go down quickly, but I don't know. You're not always going to have something that is accurate enough to pop them at a distance.
Yeah. Blobs, which will be a continuous enemy. Many variations on it, which subdivide as you shoot them, but they just chase you. They're a melee enemy.
Yeah.
And then this is the only floor with like cool haunted books.
Love it.
These things are great. And little cultists, little gungeoners who fire different bullet patterns. This is also an enemy that'll be iterated on. And then kind of the mini boss type enemy for this, the gun nut or chain gunner. These guys are always worth killing because they give you a lot of money.
Yeah.
And another little tip is like use your unlimited ammo things on this. Like don't waste 10 crossbow bullets on
Yeah.
these guys. Just do a few clips because it'll be quicker and you'll save ammo.
Yeah.
But these are their big guys that kind of look like they're from Rogue Legacy, who
Yeah.
have a big sword and fire that out into a spread, or guys who are the ball and chain guys from Link to the Past, explicitly,
Yeah.
who walk around swinging their chain, which they sometimes
Which they sometimes what?
throw.
Oh yeah. I never got a handle on how to dodge that chain throw.
Yeah, I usually seek cover.
Yeah.
Each of the floors has an alternate floor to it that you can find. There's a hidden floor after every floor.
Yeah.
And in this one, the way you get it is you, on every time you're in the Keep of the Lead Lord, there's a fireplace with a portrait of Smiley and what's his name, Smiley and Trusty or whatever.
Okay.
The two guys who are who turn into the Trigger Twins.
Okay.
But it's their keep, and if you put out that fireplace, there's a switch inside. You can press to get to the second floor, the oubliette.
Gotcha.
Which we'll talk about briefly when we get to the end during kind of the book report part. But in general, it is good to go to the secret floors. The first one is tricky because it takes 2 keys
Okay.
to get into it. So you have to either deprive yourself of some treasure on the first floor, or you have to be very lucky
Yeah.
to get in there.
The oubliette's tough as well.
Yes. Yeah. It's a sewer.
Yeah.
And it's full of like puking bullets and stuff. And what you're doing is you're getting a really like a pushover boss for that. And then a chance at 2 more chests at a shop and another floor of money. So it does help. And the next secret floor is contingent
Yes.
on doing the oubliette.
Right.
But yeah, it's generally worth it. But that's one of the little side things you're going to be doing is looking for secret extra floors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Chamber 1 bosses. You're going to be fighting these guys a lot, and you will learn how to stomp them. Even though like there's only one of them that is like especially easy, and even then only some of the time. Yeah, let's go. Let's go through them.
Yeah, the two the Trigger Twins, which is Smiley and Shades, which I mentioned. Those are the 2 guys who are humans, and this you can eventually get their guns. This is 2 giant bulletkin who fight together.
Yeah.
It is kind of tricky. There's 2 of them. They both do pretty simple attacks like spreads
Yeah.
of bullets, kind of like wide waves where you want to create distance. They'll sometimes shoot themselves
Yeah.
at you, which is very cute.
It's like a little
And then
charge. Yeah.
Little charge, and then they summon regular bulletkin
Right.
in.
Yeah. Where these get tricky is even though their individual patterns are simple enough, is they're going to be asynchronous and they're going to be firing at you, roughly at the same time. So they're going to mix. So unlike with the bullet kink, that'll be different. Or with the Gatling Gull, where just like I know this pattern and I know like this is the point where I want to dodge or weave through. There's no 100% reliable like response they're going to bring in. It's very dependent on like position and pattern and timing and stuff.
Yeah, and keeping an eye on both of them.
Yeah.
So they can be tricky. They don't have very much health.
Yeah.
So if you have a good weapon, they'll go down quickly. But when you kill one, the other one heals a little bit and then gets angry, similar to an Ornstein and Samo.
Yes.
But you're just fighting one of them. That's pretty easy, even if he's pissed.
Yes.
For my money, the hardest boss on the first floor is the Bullet King.
Yep.
This took me the longest time to get. He is a bullet sitting on a huge throne, kind of like MODOK. Yeah. It has a little Chancellor lackey. He just will go down in one hit, but you do want to kill him.
Yes.
Little Easter egg, if you use the Casey bat and knock the Chancellor into the king, it's a 1-shot kill. So, yay. So it's very cute. But he has a lot of different patterns. He floats, so he's immune to ground-based effects.
Right.
So you can't set him on fire or anything using the Molotov. And fires some things that are like big radial patterns are easy to weave through.
Yeah.
But he has one thing that is very tough where he shoots a cluster of bullets above his head, which then come out in a pattern that seems very random. And I can only dodge it consistently if I'm far away.
Yeah, like a lot of the Bullet King seems to be like meant to keep you away from him. Know, especially because, there's that, like with any of these radial patterns, with the exception of ones that are like meant to be walls that you have to dodge through. they will spread out as they get away from the source. But even if you can reliably do the tight dodge and you get around those when you're close, like he just has what feels like a shotgun almost, where he fires the little the arrow shaped bullets at you in kind of a let's say spread gun kind of fashion, and like he'll do that as he is like charging at you, and those move very fast. If I ended up
combos.
If I ended up taking damage from him, it was often from that, because like I just neglectfully let him get too close.
Yeah, you want to keep your distance if you can.
Yeah,
from the Bullet King. And then when the game first came out, the only boss they had on the first floor was the Gatling Gull. Who is Vulcan Raven, not Vulcan Reagan.
No,
Vulcan Reagan is really, really good, man.
Well,
I didn't mention this. Well.
He did say well a lot.
He did say a lot. I am, I'm under the weather as we're recording this, and I'm on a bunch of cold medicine. So I'm gonna chalk Vulcan Reagan up to Dayquil.
Okay.
So cool. go Dayquil. But Gatling Gull, I love. He's a big Rambo guy, and he has feathers instead of armpit hair. They all have these little title screens with their character, and they're so good.
Yeah.
And he's the only boss that has multiple arenas.
Yes.
Which makes him tricky. And these can really depend, on how, or this can really change how difficult he is.
Yeah. Fuck the moats, man.
Yeah, the moats are really difficult. He walks around like Vulcan Raven, walks around shooting a widespread at you, occasionally calling in airdrops on you, like kind of mortar shells, and then sometimes shooting out waves of bullets, or a bullet that'll hit the back wall and then turn into a wave that comes back.
Yes.
All of this is relatively easy to dodge, but he will continuously like encroach on you.
Yeah.
As this happens.
Very mobile. Not the most mobile, because you got the trigger twins, but like his behavior changes the most as he gets close to you. Like as he, when he is on the move, that is when he is firing the bullets that are hardest to dodge, because he is doing the kind of the back and forth spray on that. Yeah.
And he, the three arenas you can have. One is a library with lots of pillars. That's pretty easy. One is a big open area with flowers and chandeliers. There are chandeliers you can knock off the wall, and bullets can trigger them. They tend to kill me more than they kill the boss, so I try to set those off in advance.
Always get hoisted.
Yeah. And there's one with two moats that is very tricky. Because you have to do kind of platforming. When you dodge, you do this to jump over gaps.
Yeah.
So,
in addition to him always kind of like being on the march, he can also, if you are too far away from him, he will jump up into the air and then land near you. So it's effectively like a teleport that he does.
Yeah. It can be very tricky. When he dies, a bunch of crows come down and leave nothing.
I love it.
Which is real good.
Yeah. Oh, man. But yeah, you're gonna figure out ways to take these out. If not perfectly, then at least that's not going to be a pattern. Dying to one of these guys will make you feel like a chump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you get through this, if you don't go to the oubliette, you get to the chamber 2, which is the Gungeon proper, which is like darker and dingier. It is more like a dungeon.
Yes.
There are traps.
Yeah, you get spikes that will activate as if you step over them, or these fire bursts that will fire intermittently, and also pitfalls are more common here.
Yeah.
If you fall down one of these, you'll respawn back where you fell, but you will lose half of a heart.
Yes. Yeah. And let's kind of mention some of the marquee enemies.
Yes.
That you'll find here, and then I'll talk about how to get to the hidden floor.
Yeah.
In this. So I mentioned snipers earlier. This is when the snipers show up. You see a laser sight before they fire.
I get more stressed out by these than I should, like based on like they give you all the information that you need to avoid them easily. But yeah, I always freak out when that laser gets on me.
Yeah, it's hard to dodge. It's a fast moving bullet.
Yes.
All bullets do not move the same speed in this. Probably the enemy that I think probably pissed people off the most in this whole game, because this is as far as they get, is the Lead Maiden.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Lead Maiden is really tricky. It's an Iron Maiden. Stands in the middle of the room, and it's closed. When it opens up, it shoots out 3 waves of spiky bullets that go to the end of the room, stop, and then turn around all aim at you and then move towards you.
Yes.
So while it's shooting these out, you have to dodge them, and that's when you can do damage. And there are, if you're fighting them along with something else, this can be incredibly tricky.
Yeah.
To dodge those bullets after they stop and all hone in on you.
Yeah. That combined with the fact that this is one of the only enemies that just can decide, hey, you're not going to do damage to me. The fact that you have to only shoot it when it's open is a real problem for me, actually. That's my that's my biggest issue with them. Not so much their bullet pattern.
Yeah, they can be a really big pain.
Yeah.
Each floor kind of has a marquee enemy.
Yeah.
And later they actually do a thing where like they'll go through all of them in one room. In kind of in turn, and it's kind of like a parade.
Yeah.
They're all having a party. The gun nuts and the chain gunners were that on the first floor.
Right.
This is the one for this floor.
Yeah. The phaser spider can also start showing up here as well. It's a big old spider. Will speed around and it will shoot out bullets in these like spider web patterns that leave webs on the ground that will slow you down and leave you unable to get around him. Especially weak to fire. If you can set them on fire, it'll also like carry along the webs, which is good. Yeah.
You can also run into what I think is there are mini bosses that you'll run into in this game that tend to give you higher end treasure. We mentioned Blockner. Earlier, he's one of them. The hardest one to me is Fusilier, who is Bowser from the end of Super Mario World.
Yep.
Explicitly.
I felt very clever when I figured that out. I was like, oh, he's certain little clockworks at me. Okay. He's like like in a big in a big spherical helicopter thing. He is modeled after like a classic bomb, but there's like a dude inside and he's throwing these automatons at you.
Yeah. I find him hard.
Yes.
I tend to take damage on him. The other two, Blockner is pretty easy, and then Shadow Magician, who has a moveset that they end up reusing in one of the pasts.
Yeah.
Is vaguely based on Agahim from Link to the Past. Kind of shoots lightning at you and bullet rings at you while teleporting around the room. Not too bad.
I could deal with Shadow Magician. Fusilier, he's in his own unique chamber, and you're fighting on a very narrow walkway, and I need room to dodge.
Yeah, very tricky. So moving on to the bosses. Oh, the way that you get the secret floor in this is on the oubliette, there is a crest you can find, which acts as a piece of armor, but it's always your topmost piece of armor, so it's always the first one you'll lose. You have to find a shrine in the in Chamber 2 to put it on to unlock Abbey of the True Gun, which is the third floor. Or the second floor, secret floor, which has a unique boss and a bunch of unique treasure and unique enemies. And it's a really cool floor with a really, really hard boss. And I find it annoying that you have to play perfectly up until you find the shrine.
Yeah.
I haven't been to that floor as many times as I would like because I get hit in this game. I don't like tying secret floors into secret floors. The other thing you're going to want to do on this floor, if you want to get the third secret floor, is eventually buy the rat key. Or the nod key. You pay that down over time.
There are a couple of things like that. Yeah.
You permanently put, kind of like that one boss in Final Fantasy VI. That maintains damage.
Death Gaze. Yeah.
Death Gaze. Yeah. You like put money into it until eventually it's just for sale for 115 shells every time.
Yeah.
And you need that in the next floor to get in, along with some other nonsense, which I'll talk about, in order to get into the rats, the resourceful rats lair.
Yes. Cool. Let's talk about the bosses, starting off with, and this has some of my favorite puns in here. I love that there's just the Gorgon, and I also love that the Gorgon is a very easy boss.
Yeah, this is the easiest. I think this is the easiest boss of the game.
Yeah.
I think the Gorgon is easier than any of the first floor bosses, actually.
Yeah.
Very predictable. She is a Medusa who uses Uzis, aka Medusi. And her arena is a water arena where she can jump underwater and leave like a poison trail. Not too bad. But mostly we'll just kind of shoot waves of bullets at you.
Yeah.
They're very, very predictable. Her less predictable one is where she shoots a series of concentric rings out at you, you have to be closer to her than you want to be.
Yes, because the concentric rings have gaps that will close as they get far away from her. So, like, when she gets this, it's actually like weirdly a way to draw you in as you are trying to get through those gaps before they close. So, and it, like, you know, because it's a concentric ring circle, the gaps are smaller when you're closer to her. So, like, you're going up. That's actually like a weirdly nuanced mechanic.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Like I love this attack, and there aren't very many of them like this. They do really creative shit with bullet hell patterns in this game. She can also petrify you. She sends out a little wave, which will stop you from firing. The thing I love about this is, like, obviously you can roll through it, but if you face away, it won't affect you.
Oh,
because she's a Gorgon.
Fuck! Why didn't I think about that? Like,
it's because most games wouldn't have that level of detail. It would just be an attack.
Have done that, yeah.
It's really neat. Like, just turn away and it won't get you.
Just don't look. Yeah,
just don't look. She's great. Like, when you run into her, it's like easy ace.
Yes,
I find. The opposite end of the spectrum, the hardest second floor boss, which I think should be on the third floor, to me, is the Amoconda.
Yeah. Wow, he just comes at you from all sides.
Plus, you got guns, son.
Was that one you walked in with?
No. I just came up with that.
Okay.
I'm going to take credit for that one instead of cold medicine.
Yeah. So, this is modeled after. It seems modeled after a Zelda boss, right?
Yeah. The snake boss in Zelda, but also just kind of a snake in general.
Yeah.
You know, it looks like that boss from Zelda, but it's super random.
Yeah.
In a game that is almost entirely based on patterns, this guy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Moves around randomly, shooting bullets out randomly. Sometimes they come out at 90-degree angles. The most annoying thing to me is that it drops these turrets, which will shoot, and then it will eat them if you don't kill them in time, which will buff it up and heal it.
Yeah. Like, this thing just consistently, like with most of the enemies that we talked about before, you could look at them, keep track of them, and know, like, okay, yes, you know, here's an attack, here's an attack, here's an attack. This thing is always on the move, and it feels like it is always generating bullets, either from itself or from its turrets. Yeah. Like, there are ways that you can disable that, like by using explosives. Like, if you damage a particular section enough, a particular segment of him enough, that, like, it will stop firing. But, like, I don't know, that's not really something you can base a strategy around. Maybe you'll have a piercing weapon that'll make that happen, but, like, that's not really tied to the health meter at all.
Yeah. And the fact that he heals is really fucking annoying. It's very hard to get a flawless on the Amoconda. I'm like several hundred hours into this game, and I still do it rarely.
Yeah.
And then for flavor, my favorite boss on the second floor is the Beholster.
The Beholster is amazing. It's so
He's really good.
Yeah.
All of these guns are guns you can get.
Yep.
In the game, like, he's actually just holding guns, and there's a Beholster shrine where if you give him all of the guns that the Beholster holds, you get like a benefit.
Yeah.
I've never done that because that's, you know, like a 1 in a million kind of run.
Yeah.
I get that. But it's a beholder holding guns instead of eyeballs.
But he still has the central eye, and that becomes, I mean, for me, the main attack that becomes a problem, because, like, each of those guns, you know, so he will, like, go through them randomly, but they have easy enough to deal with effects. You know, like, okay, he'll fire these rockets, but they track very slowly. I can shoot them out of the air. That's fine. Like, the actual patterns are okay. Like, the minions that he summons are not really a problem, but he can fire that dodge beam with basically no telegraph. He will sweep it back and forth very quickly in a way that makes it, like, pretty tough to time your dodge in a way that will not leave you stunned or unable to dodge when it comes back around.
Well, if there's anything else going on,
yes,
it's really difficult. Like, I can dodge any of those sweeping beam things pretty easily, but if there's one minion there, they're oftentimes shooting at me right when I'm in my recovery position, which makes that really tricky. The other tech he has that I think is annoying is the missiles, because they take quite a bit of damage to blow up. And they home in. So if you don't have a high damage gun, when you shoot them once, they just divert. They kind of like shunt onto a different path. And he shoots missiles while doing all this other stuff.
Yes.
So that can be a big pain in the ass. But cool enemy. Other weird little like thing about the holster is every once in a while you can run into a glitch chest. They're extremely rare,
Yeah.
and they take you to a floor with only one room where you fight 2 beholsters at once.
Oh, wow.
I have never beat that,
Okay.
so
Yeah, that would be a lot.
that is too hard for me.
Yeah. I like the eye of the beholster, the weapon that you get out of that. I like that its tagline is beautiful. Just
Yeah,
the word
really
beautiful. Very good.
And whenever you reload, it creates a little. You create one of his little minions,
little buddy, and it's charmed. So it's like it floats around you and it has a little heart above it because it loves you.
And then an enemy I've only fought a couple times because it's rare, so I
Yeah.
can't speak to this fight very much because I beat the Door Lord, but he doesn't show up very often.
Yeah.
It's a boss mimic.
Uh-huh.
You go in the door, it pans up as if it's going to show a boss. It kind of does a double take because there's no boss there. Pans back down to the door, which gets a big shit-eating grin on its face, and then becomes the boss for you.
Yeah, it is a 1.3 repeating % chance that this will happen on on floor 2 to 4. It has never happened for me. I never fought this guy. I had to watch a video. I watched a video of all the fights I didn't do, or boss fights.
Yeah.
So it's lots of circular patterns, stomps around, leaves flaming paths behind it with its little laser. Yeah, seems tough, but not undoable.
Yeah, really tough. He'd be a reasonable 3rd or 4th floor boss, but if you get him on the 2nd floor, he's tough. The 3rd chamber, the Black Powder Mine, which is a mine cart level.
Yeah.
Lots of pitfalls, lots of mines you can ride around in, and enemies can ride around in. Sometimes there are turrets in mine carts that go back and forth, and there are a lot more kind of floor hazards to this, as well as like places you can hit a switch and make rocks fall to destroy your enemies or yourself.
Yes. There are oil lamps on the walls that you can attack that will create oil goop on the floor that can be ignited. There's like streams of acid and stuff like that. It's tough. Like this is a hard, a very hard level for me, actually. The 4th floor is substantially easier than this to me.
Wow. I find the 4th floor a lot harder than this.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. I just, for some reason, I ended up taking a lot of damage here. And I find the enemies that are available here to be tougher than the ones on the 4th floor as well.
Yeah. I think maybe because I tend to go to the oubliette.
Oh, yeah.
Some of these I see because this is where the mushroom enemies start, and you fight them earlier if you go to the oubliette.
I hate those mushroom enemies, dude.
Yeah.
They really suck.
The Fun Gun and Spoger. Who are little mushrooms, and they throw out clouds of spores, which are bullets, either huge ones or small ones, depending on the size of the mushroom.
Yeah, not great. The minelet, like the variant of the ammo can that you get here that have the helmet on, that will dive onto the ground and bounce bullets back at you, kind of like the I always forget the name of that Mega Man enemy.
Little guy.
Yeah.
His name is Little Man.
His name's Little Guy.
Yeah. Hey, did you? We forgot to mention this earlier. Have you run into a wallmonger?
No.
In this?
Wallmonger.
Like from Zelda?
No.
They're the hands that come down and grab you in Zelda games.
Oh yeah.
They have those, and they'll grab you in this, and then they form their fingers into bullet fingers and shoot you into a room that you've already been into.
Oh, that's fun.
It's very fun. I forgot about those guys. Those guys can show up on the 1st floor.
Yeah.
Anywhere. Sorry, I just was just remembering him.
Oh, I did not run into one of those.
To Sir with Love.
So another reason this gets pretty hard for me is that this is where jammed enemies start coming up, because you find the Jamomancer and the Jammerlengo. Jammerlengo is a chef's kiss pun. These are like little priests. They're popes that will jam either one enemy in the room or all enemies in a room.
Yes.
Yeah, making them harder. They will like grave lord you.
Yeah, we've had enemies that buff other enemies before, but these ones are a bigger emergency.
Yes.
This is also where the Kilithids, which are mind flayers, show up, and these things are really tough. They split into 3 with 2 illusory copies. They create these little portals they shoot bullets into that will come out at odd angles. They're very tricky. And the Skeleton.
Yeah.
Very tough.
Wow. Like they've got like almost like a little like grappling hook. Man, it is really hard to avoid damage from these guys when they throw their arms out at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to get between cover. Like if you want to get cover between you and it, and that's kind of how you take these things take these things out. But they're tricky. Yeah, the enemies here are tricky. The way you do the secret floor in this is kind of a pain. One of these rooms will have rats running around it. And that's the rat room. And if you use a blank or just run around, you'll uncover a door there, which you have to unlock. And then you go down into a minecart area and you go all the way to the end of a long tunnel and then blank through 2 walls. Like there's a double illusory wall.
Okay.
And then you use a giant key to get into the resourceful rat's lair.
The royal rat's lair.
Which is,
yes.
The royal resourceful rat. That has a whole gimmick to it, which I'll talk about later. That I find that area to be a huge pain in the dick.
Yeah.
Do not like it. I do not like finding the room either.
Yeah.
So
no.
the one thing I didn't like that they added in the final update.
Yeah, it just seems really expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some bosses here. I find the bosses of this to be just a little bit easier than the floor itself. Like if you roll a tread knot, you're sitting pretty.
Yeah, except for the Mind Flayer. I think the Mind Flayer should have been a 4th floor boss, but the tread knot's pretty easy. Yeah. It's a guy in a tank, again Metal Gear things, and he can only move in straight lines.
Right.
And just fires at you and fires little ads at you, little minions, and will destroy these pillars. But there are tons of pillars.
Yeah.
So you want to just run away from it and shoot.
He's so he's so predictably. It is easy to predictably lead him around.
Yeah,
is what I ran
They
into.
patched him to slow him down. He used to be much faster, and this was a really hard boss.
I could see that being a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think they overcorrected because I do like there being like kind of a gimme boss on each floor. It adds to the the slot machine feel.
Yeah. Kind of the medium one here is Cannon Balrog. Which is good. This is a cannonball with like a scary face on it that rolls around at a huge plume of smoke. I find that the smoke hindering readability is the thing that ends up being a real problem for me here, actually. Because he spews out really intense bullet hell patterns, but it's his roll that ends up being a real big problem for me.
Yeah. He also does a thing where he disappears.
Yeah.
And you see his eyes, and he'll shoot like 5 really big bullets at you in a line that will bounce off the back wall. These will overlap, and you can't really hurt him when he's in this mode. This is another thing they patched because he used to be able to that was just part of his repertoire. Yeah. And now he can only do it twice.
Okay, that's good because those bounces are anything that bounces is a real problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah. And then the hardest boss on the 3rd floor for my money is the Mind Flayer.
Yes.
Good pun. But this guy sucks. Yeah. I find him very difficult.
Yes. He's got a lot going on in terms of gimmicks, actually. The combination of the bell and then the claymore mines. Like, if you get lucky on him, and I must have gotten lucky, just because he is the hardest of the 3, but he was not really a run ender for me. But like, if you get lucky, he will not summon the claymore mines as much as he otherwise would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's explicitly the Mind Flayers from Latria too. Yes. Like he's carrying a bell. One of the things is he creates a bunch of bells and then hides under one of them, and they all kind of spread out. Each one you destroy creates a huge wave of bullets until you can find the right one. Yeah. If you time that right with an explosion, you can hit all of them at once, and it's really good. But otherwise, it's really tricky.
Yeah. Do they all explode? I mean, then you just blank the resulting unblockable. What's that?
Well, they're all coming from the same spot, so you can kind of roll.
Okay.
They're all clustered up in the middle, so you can roll through pretty easy.
Yeah. But when he summons those mines, like they've got the proximity sensor around them is unreasonably big. It feels like, reduces the amount of safe area to very small slivers on the floor. Yeah, a weird little trivia bit is you can charm them as well. They count as enemies.
The mines? You can make the little proximity mines. Huh. You can get little hearts above their heads, and they won't attack you.
Will they go after the Mind Flayer, or will they just not explode?
I don't think they go after him. Okay. And he doesn't wander into them. They just don't explode on you.
Gotcha. Well, that's good. That's good to know.
This is also where you can do the first story fight with Blockner before he appears as a mini boss. He shows up here with 2 gun nuts initially and kind of gives you some dialogue, but eventually we'll just get rolled into the mini boss pool.
Yeah.
There we go. The hardest floor to me is the 4th one, the Hollow, which is the ice level, which is full of undead. This is where there are like zombie enemies, including undead Gungeoneers.
Yes.
Who are who shoot to miss, which fucking destroys me. Like shooting, leading your shots.
I can predict.
It doesn't feel like something a video game can be.
No.
You know,
stop that.
And they dodge roll a lot as well. And this is also where they introduce zombies who pop up, who just kind of show up from the floor.
Yeah.
And you'll have kind of zombie rooms where you'll just have to, like, it'll get dark and you'll have to fight off a bunch of these little zombies.
Yeah.
I forget about these guys a lot. I don't know if it's a colorblind thing. I never know if it is.
Yeah.
They don't stand out very well to me though.
Okay.
So I'll be like, I'm taking damage and not really see what it is.
Yeah.
Until I have to, like, I can stop.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I don't know why I don't really have a problem with this. It feels like it feels like in switching to the undead versions of some of these enemies, like the undead versions are not actually harder than some of the others. It just kind of seems like, yeah, there's some that are going to lead their shots a little bit more, but like it's just replaced with easier gimmicks, right? You know?
Yeah.
So like the gummy, it's like the mummified ammokin, like will occasionally summon a jammed version of a pretty easy enemy, a jammed spent. Like that's not a big deal. Like the blobulon is not really that much harder than the other blobs. Like it's easier to me that it gets bigger as it gets closer to you, as it gets as it takes more damage. Like, the blobs that break apart into more things, it seems easier to just like accidentally take damage from the tiny ones,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah. I don't know what about this one. I find this floor significantly harder than the last one. The layouts are also more natural. Like it's less like designed. So there'll be more rooms that have kind of craggy sides to them. So it's a little bit less predictable.
Yes.
For me.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, because even though this floor is a little bit easier than 3, the bosses in this destroy me. Even like the big enemy, like major guys here end up being a real problem.
The way you get the secret floor in this is there is somewhere on this floor will be a cell creep.
Yeah.
And if you give him 4 items of any kind, so it's a good way to spend your junk, and then 1 master round, he blows up.
Okay.
And you get to go down to where he's at, which is research and gun development or something like that.
It's the RNG department.
Yeah, RNG department, which is full of weird versions of the enemies, kind of like in Super Mario World when you beat it.
Oh, yeah.
And all the like Koopas become Mario heads and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really creative. Like everything has like a weird little look, and it's like half office building, half future. Space, and then you fight a Gundam who is voiced by Cam Clark, as it says in the credits. It's like a Gundam voiced by Cam Clark, who is in a Hind D and whines about how you got all the good guns.
I love that so much.
It's really good. Yeah, really nice little liquid snake.
It's one of those things where, like, I don't know these guys from Adam. I like the game that they made. It's not entirely for me, but I really admire it. It's one of those things where you feel like happy for people by proxy that they got to the point where they could hire Cam Clark to voice their game.
Yeah, to do a Hind D fight, boss fight in their secret level.
It's like, oh, that's a really cool thing to do. Like, I'm happy that they got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, incredibly cute.
There's at least one big enemy that I want to talk about here, the Gun Reaper. Yeah, with his shotgun scythe sending arcs after you. And it's just a hazard. It cannot be killed. It will just disappear when a room is cleared. This is the one where a harder version of it shows up if you are full cursed and comes after you, right?
Yeah, and this can be really difficult. It basically gives you something to worry about while you are
doing
clearing the room.
Yeah.
The bosses here are a tricky bunch. To me, the easiest one is the Kill Pillars.
Okay.
This is 4 bosses that are all together. They have each have their own health bar. They have a really predictable pattern. They always start the same.
Yeah.
creating this kind of circular arena of bullets around them where they will send these spinning kind of lines around you like a fan where you have to dodge through while shooting them.
It's not just that you have to dodge the fan blades. They also send out concentric
Waves.
rings. They send like these waves. So like what you have to do is like aim at the intersection point.
Diagonal.
Yeah, this destroys me. You know, by virtue of the fact that this is kind of a shuttle run game, you know, I've gotten a lot of experience on the bosses from chambers 1 to 3. Kill pillars, I don't think I ever cleared them. I think kill pillars ended up being a run ender for me.
A definitive run ender.
Yeah.
I could see it. Like the patterns are all a little tricky to deal with, but the difference between them is that they're really set. You know, like this ends up being a very predictable boss, kind of like way harder pattern Medusi.
Yeah, okay.
You know, in that way. So like still very tricky. Like, you know, it is tricky to do that first thing. It's tricky when they all start just kind of pounding around, shooting bullets around at you. But once you know how to deal with it, I found that you can do it pretty consistently.
Yeah.
It's also a thing if by this point in the run, if you have a piercing weapon, that's really huge because you hit all 4 of them at once.
Yeah, the best that I ever did on them, I had a piercing weapon. I think I may have even been using the holster.
Yeah. When they get to the final final pillar that's left, it will kind of just move towards you and kind of ground pound you.
Yeah.
And leave out some bullets, which you have to leap over and then shoot at it right before it does. It becomes pretty predictable at the end.
Yeah. The other architecture-based boss here, the Wallmonger, I ended up having a little bit of an easier time with this. It is an advancing fortress wall. It's kind of like, I forget the name of the wall that is in the afterlife of Forgotten Realms. What is the name of that thing, Gary?
Oh, I can't remember now. Cold medicine.
Just the one that the non-believers are all kind of like sealed into. Yeah, you
Mask
know,
of the Betrayer.
Yeah. But this has miserable-looking undead ammokin into it. It advances toward you. There's a time limit on this, and the ammokin send out very intricate patterns. The screen is roughly divided into thirds, where left and right you're going to get the bullet patterns, and in the middle, occasionally, the main gate will spew out lava.
Yes. The center is the place where you want to stay, but you can't do that unless you can fly or you're immune to fire.
Yes.
But you get a big advantage if you are. This guy is really kind of like my premier example of somebody who's more intimidating.
Yeah.
Like the patterns, these look fucking impossible to do, but if you can relax, like you can usually get through it.
Yeah.
Specifically, the rows of 4 that he sends down at you, which you can roll through because they're moving towards you. It looks too far to roll.
Yeah.
But as long the speed they're moving at, you can go all the way through them because your dodge is actually really generous.
Yeah.
You can really fuck yourself up by getting something that slows down bullets, which tends to be a very good item.
Yep.
But if you get the Valkyrie Eye, which slows down enemy bullets, it makes it so you cannot dodge through that attack.
Yeah.
Because it moves too slowly.
Yeah, I never ran into that. That seems like it would be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of a pain. But cool enemy. And it's cool that he eventually will just crush you on the wall if you don't beat him in time.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gigantic target, so you pretty much wherever you're going to be shooting, you're fine. So
Yeah. It's all about dodging. Like you will be hitting him. And then to me, the hardest boss on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
And maybe the only boss I haven't aced before, even on like a clone run, is the High Priest.
Yeah.
I find this boss incredibly hard.
Yeah. I didn't have that much of a problem with him. I think I cleared him once. Obviously, I never got him. Down. I'm not going to do better than you. Yeah, flawless. There we go. The biggest problem for him here was the randomness to it.
Yeah.
But I never found any one of his individual patterns to be too much.
The thing that is hard for me is that the little the things on the wall, like the candles and stuff, will also fire at you.
Yeah, those things
and
suck.
they're slow moving, but like, man, I'm not really trained to look at them.
No, I'm not. I'm trained to expect bullets to come from the big thing that's shooting at me, not ambiently from the wall. You know what might have made a big difference for me? You sent me that video that had like the tips and tricks and stuff. I knew like vaguely how to deal with the bullets, knowing that they wouldn't shoot if you were on the wall near them.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because I have, I watched that video, that tips and tricks video, but a lot of this stuff I've just kind of internalized as well. So I'm kind of drawing from like all of the high priest fights I've done, which isn't that many because when I started out this game, I was not getting to the fourth floor consistently.
Right.
And even then, it's a 1 in 3 chance to run into him.
Yeah.
My favorite attack that he does is when he pulls down his hood and his head is just a gun. That fires a really fast homing bullet at you.
Yep. Yeah, that's very funny.
And when he dies, he just becomes an amulet on the floor. Like he was like a ghost, like it's a robe and an amulet.
I love
It's
it.
really cool.
Yeah. This is also the first guy who will send out the skulls at you. The skulls will be a major factor in the high dragon fight. Oh.
Yeah. These home in on you, and when you shoot them, they explode into bullets.
Yes.
So, Chamber 5 is the Forge, which is kind of your lava level. We just did our ice level. Here's kind of our lava level. I find this a little bit easier than floor 4, but I that's okay if that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's still tricky.
It felt about the same. The fucking hammers, man.
Yeah, the hammers suck. Hammers are really tricky. These are floating hammers that float above your head and then will kind of give you a little warning and then slam down on you.
Yeah.
And send a wave of bullets. Real tricky. Very tricky.
Very much so. The conveyor belts, like that as a level gimmick, is easier for me to deal with than pitfalls. Pitfalls feel less common here than they do, like even on floor 3 a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Other than that, there aren't that many new enemies in this. It's mostly like remix enemies. On the last floor, there were kind of ice sliding blocks that you could destroy. On this one, they have fire ones that cannot be destroyed. So they're sliding block kind of hazards, again, like Zelda.
Yeah.
And I find those really difficult. I got tagged by those quite a bit.
Yeah. The other big enemy here is the Revolvenant.
Yep.
Yeah. This is like a big, it's another big skeleton, flings his arms. Just a kind of a tougher version of the skeleton pun for the gun reaper. No, different one. Wait a minute. No.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Skeleton.
Skeleton. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. This guy is tricky.
Yeah.
The big thing you're doing here in the meta for this is if you've gotten all the parts of the bullet that can kill the past, which each floor kind of has like a little quest.
Yeah.
To get them. One floor you just buy it. The other one you find it in different places. The final piece you get from killing the boss of this floor, you take it to the shop for this floor, which is a shop with typically a better selection than you'd ordinarily run into. The prices are pretty high, but the things tend to be pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And the blacksmith here will forge the bullet for you.
Yeah, and you want to make sure to take that in if you're going to go into your character's past.
Yes. Now that I've done all that stuff, when I'm just playing it regularly, I usually don't get it. Once I've fought the past, I don't need to fight them again.
Yeah.
I just don't pick it up.
It's a lot of resources, especially early on to get that primer or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, once you've done it, you just have to pick it up.
Oh, okay.
Like you only have to build the bullet once.
Okay.
And then it's just available.
Yeah.
Whenever you want it. And you don't have to do it for each character or anything either. So it's just kind of a meta quest you're doing while you're doing shuttle runs.
Yeah.
So by the time you get here, eventually you'll have the ability to go into the past. But before you can go to the past, you have to fight the High Dragon.
Wow, Gary, this thing is really tough.
Yeah.
I think overall it probably took me 4 or 5 attempts to do this. And remember that each of those attempts has a pretty tenuous, let's say 40 minutes of play in front of it.
Yeah. It's a run. Like this is an M boss, and instead of just, you don't have a save point, it's a roguelike.
Yeah.
So, you're taking full runs at this. The thing that makes that appealing to some and a sound decision is that you'll have a different set of power and a different history.
Yes.
When you go against them the second time. So maybe you got better weapons, maybe you did better on earlier bosses, so you have more health.
Yeah.
He is really tricky. There is a champion version of this that's incredibly, incredibly tough.
Yeah.
This version is very hard as well, though.
Yeah.
So the camera zooms out, you become smaller. He takes up the whole top of the screen. Has a lot of hit points. And has just a variety of attacks.
Yeah.
Some of which are pretty easy to take out or to avoid.
He builds up. He builds up.
Yeah, he builds up. Some of which are much harder.
Yeah.
So like, he'll sweep his head and do like fire breath bullets. And it's like, okay, like find the place where it's narrowest and like roll in the direction, opposite direction.
Or
He's
like
going.
hide in the
I can
corner.
get through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or he'll shoot all of his bullets, the big thing at the middle of the screen, the bottom, which will just send out a wave similar to the wallmonger. You can jump over. But his biggest thing, I'm glad you pointed this out, because this is the thing I have a problem with too. And if you hate these, don't play this game long enough to get to bullet hell, because there are a lot of these.
I'm done with this game, Gary.
But bullets that bounce off the walls.
I just consistently, when these things come out, it's like, well, fuck, I guess I'm just going to take the hit. If I don't, then, thanks, Jesus.
Lucky me.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. It's easy enough to like figure the trajectories and, just what, it's just a reflection. It'll just go like that. But like they go at enough angles that it's like, I can dodge them one way, but they're going to change up entirely the next way. And I do not know what to do with that. And
he combos too. Like whenever we're talking about one of these individual attacks, if anybody who has not played the game is just like, if I were playing Enter the Gungeon, I would simply move out of the way of the bullet.
Be hit by this. Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you're not just watching that. You're watching for the next attack. You are keeping your aim up. You're thinking about your ammo. Like you're watching the cooldown on your active item. Like it is an action game. You are thinking about a lot of things at once.
Yeah. And like if there's a kindness to the High Dragon, it's that he telegraphs like Western Union. Like he really does give you a lot, but like that's another thing you need to pay attention to. So yeah, like that was kind of the saving grace for me, was learning his learning his tells. And there was a certain amount, I mean, I'll cop to this. There was a certain amount of watching video of people successfully getting them to learn what the, to learn what was the input, the animation that is the input, and then the output, which was the action that would be required of me to dodge the attack that was coming up. So
it's fair. It's just really tough. My least favorite attack that he does is throwing knives into the wall, who then pull out some machine guns.
Yep.
The knives pull them out.
That's funny. I like the theming of that.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's just they're an emergency. You have to take them out. It seems like they have really easy to dodge attacks, but they will overlap everything else.
Yes.
Really, really tricky. The way, I've only gotten a flawless on the Dragon from doing a clone run or getting the full metal jacket item, which is an item that automatically uses your blanks.
Oh yeah.
And then stocking up on blanks.
Yeah.
So I had like 4 or 5 free hits, but he's very hard. He has a second phase where he has about a quarter health. And then a second phase where his heart pops out, is exposed, and he sends the screen coming down full of bullets with little holes for you to jump between, little circular gaps.
Yes.
I find that really fun. Like I was just like, the first time I saw this, I was like, holy shit, like how am I going to do that? And then like figuring out like, dodging through, like I thought this is very satisfying.
Something this spectacular was definitely one of those times where I realized, okay, this like, do not, I think I paused it even. I was like, okay, do not let this trick you. Like, like it wants you to think, oh shit, so that you take a hit here and die at the very end, like right when victory is in sight. Collect yourself and just figure out, because even though it looks impossible, there's a thing that it wants you to do. Once I realized that, this ended up becoming a little bit fun. The champion version, when I watched a video of that, like where it becomes like, no, you can't do the diagonal dodge dodge roll through that. Like you have to do a perfect horizontal dodge roll, like taking the velocity of it into account.
Hard.
No thanks, man.
Yep. Extremely hard.
Yeah.
The advanced Dragon is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
After you beat him, the first time you do, you get the master, the casing, the final casing or whatever, to build the bullet. You go into this void, and you can, if you have the bullet, you can go into your character's past to resolve their fate.
Yeah.
You get kind of a loadout for all these. You don't keep your items. And because of that, they tend to be relatively easy.
Yes.
These are kind of victory laps. Like they're not nothing, but it's like you got reset to first floor equipment and you're fighting a new first floor boss.
Yes.
Is kind of what it feels like.
Yeah. And this, I mean, especially after the High Dragon, like if your dodging skills are enough for that, they're probably going to be enough for this.
Yeah. There are a couple of these I had a little bit of trouble with.
Yeah.
But for the most part, these were all pretty easy, and I got them first try. Their flavor is incredible.
Oh yeah.
So the Marine is on a Doom, a Doom station where they've created an interdimensional horror, like an accident, like a
course.
Half-Life thing,
Yeah.
horror or something. And you come in, and you actually have little helpers, and like your mistake was you fled. You're a coward. When you show up, they're like, "Oh, you came back," and you come back to fight this like alien that kind of warps around, summoning imps, like very explicitly Doom imps, and then shooting little slithering waves of bullets.
Yeah.
So that is your mistake. Not doing that. The convict goes back in time and actually kills Black Stash, the gangster. This is a Hotline Miami.
Yeah,
pastiche.
I know. I watched the video of this. That was very cool. You're fighting on a disco floor.
Yeah. Yep, you do. And this one has like a choice where it's like, he tells you to give up. He has all his people, and you have an option. It's like flip the table, or really, screw them and flip the table, really screw them and flip the table.
Yeah.
So apparently she ran initially.
Right.
But you go out on the dance floor and fight in a Hotline Miami kind of melee against Black Stash. The pilots is really interesting.
Yeah. I was surprised to see how much this changed.
Yeah, it's really creative. It's a shmup. Like you were an actual little ship. You still have a dodge roll, but you control like a vertical shooter.
Yeah.
Fighting the flagship of the hegemony, dominance of man or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The absolution.
Yeah, and you're taking on the flagship and the accompanying fleet. It's just I thought that was very cool, and I guess his regret was like this. He also ran, right? Like
everybody ran. These were all cowards.
Yeah, his friend, his friends were in danger, and he left them to be obliterated by the absolution. And then the hunters, you go back and you fight Dr. Wolffang. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Dr. Wolf. Yeah, maybe it's Wolf thing.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Something like that. I can't remember.
Wolftooth, yeah, but you're fighting Dr. Wolf's monster. This is like way back in the past. He's like working on this robot, and it is kind of like the first boss from Wolfenstein. Like he's got a big television for a head, shoots these scattershot patterns, sometimes swings a sword made out of bullets, which is real fun. And Dr. Wolf is kind of like running around as a little add-on for this.
Yeah, buffing him and stuff. When you go back in the past, you don't have the dog, you have a wolf.
Yep.
With you. All of these unlock their character's signature item and then one bonus item for them. So like if you want to get the dog with another character, once you beat the hunter's past, the dog will just show up in a rotation.
Oh, nice.
So other characters can have the dog.
Yeah.
For example. Once you do all 4 of those, that is how you unlock Bullet Hell and kind of start that, bonus floor. But there are also bonus characters that you unlock.
Yeah.
That are, for the most part, easy modes, which I really appreciate. Even the robot, which is really hard, is actually like very powerful.
Yeah.
And the other ones are big leg ups.
Yes.
So it's like, hey, I prove that I can beat this game. I just want to have some fun.
Yeah.
Or play in a different way.
Yeah. Change this. I mean, actually pretty substantially for me.
Hugely substantially. Yeah. So the first one you're likely to unlock is the bullet. So once you've cleared the past, every once in a while you'll see a red-caped bulletkin who won't fight you. He's passive. If you let him live, he'll teleport away. And if you do this 5 times, you get this character. And his big thing is that his weapon, his gun, starting gun, is the blasphemy, which is a sword.
Yep. Turns it into a hack and slash.
Yeah. Hack and slash, melee weapons are really interesting. Like the Zelda sword, if you have full health, it will shoot a beam. But otherwise, it is a hack and slash, but it destroys bullets.
Yeah.
That's huge. This is a pretty easy character to play as. It seems like it'd be very difficult, but he's actually like pretty easy.
Yeah. It's kind of the opposite of that scene from Indiana Jones where the guy's whipping the sword around and he shoots him because he has diarrhea.
Exactly. Yeah. That's that movie about Harrison Ford getting diarrhea.
Yeah. The other leg up you get is you get the live ammo, which eliminates contact damage while you're dodge rolling specifically, so you can dodge roll into people and take them out.
Yeah, and all contact damage, so anything that just walks up to you won't hurt you anymore. And you do quite a bit of damage rolling into enemies,
right?
And that's because you're a bullet.
Yeah.
So you're basically shooting them. The bullet is great. He has a really cool pass, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but the bullet's very fun.
Yeah.
Much harder, but also very powerful is the robot.
Yeah.
The way you have to do this is you have to take an item to the blacksmith called the busted television, which is an active item that when you can throw it, but you can also drop it into a pit. You have to get this all the way down, very hard.
Yeah.
To get this busted television all the way down. And he's very similar to Blue Baby from Isaac. And he does not have health. He just has armor.
Right. And starts out like the robot's right hand is his gun, has a massive magazine to it.
Yes.
And he's also got the ability like this battery bullets. It's a passive. It reduces his spread, turns water that he fires bullets over electrified. That's pretty rare. For to be useful, as is the coolant leak, which just lets you spray some water. But like as you're going, like just the armor ends up being a pretty big deal because anytime you're hit, you expend the blank effect, right?
Yeah. Yep. And also like health becomes a real premium with the robot. But there are items you can get that will give you an armor every floor. You can buy armor from the shop frequently. And battery bullets are incredibly good. It reduces spread by 50%.
Yeah.
So anything with a spread, any shotgun becomes amazing.
Nice.
With the robot, which is kind of his thing. So he can be very powerful. Probably the least powerful of the bonus characters, but still, he's
like
there
a fun
to
mode.
show you a different way to play. Yeah, it's a mode. I really like the paradox as well. So after you clear a past, cosmic rifts will appear. And if you kill one of those while this is active on or kill the Lich, who is the boss of Bullet Hell, while these are active, you unlock the paradox. He costs money to play, but he's like Eden from Isaac. You get a random gun and a random passive.
Yes.
When you play as the paradox.
And it's pulled from the starting equipment from the Gungeoneers, right?
You get a random starting gun and a random bonus gun.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's not pulled. You can end up with anything as your bonus item or gun.
Yeah.
The starting gun is pulled from the Gungeoneers, but everything else. So you might end up getting like the robot's right hand, which is great. But and maybe you get something really shitty. Maybe you get something really cool. But this is the character I end up playing the most as because I like Slot Machine.
Yeah.
And the next character is too easy.
Gotcha.
To play as. The next character is definitely just to like, take a lap, buddy. You're in bed.
well, yeah, because you've done all the toughest things in this game, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no real reason to challenge you further when you play as the Gunslinger, which involves defeating the Lich as the Paradox. Then you go through the whole game as this character. You start over as the Gunslinger. And then if you defeat the Lich at the end of that, you unlock this character permanently.
Right.
And this is the Lich before he was the Lich.
Yeah.
That is why you use the Paradox to unlock him. Because the Lich destroys his past. There's no Gungeon.
Yeah. Thus solving the game and all the problems. Yeah. So you start out with like you have a really good starting weapon. The slinger is what I believe just by looking at the stats. Extremely accurate, powerful. At the end of the clip, you'll throw the gun.
It has a perfect accuracy. So it's actually like aims exactly where you shoot it, no spread. And then the marquee thing is he starts with Lich's Eye bullets, which are one of the most overpowered in the games. Like it's like clone tier.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a gun, it acts as if it has all the synergies.
Yeah.
This totally flips the game around. Many D tier guns are the best guns in the game with this. Like you don't want to, hold out for the rail cannon, the rail gun, when you have the the flare gun.
Right.
With this. It's better than that. Like the flare gun is an end game weapon.
Yeah.
With all these synergies. It's really fun to see all that shit. It's really fun to just stomp the game. Which is basically what you can do with the Gunslinger.
Yes. Yeah. That seems, almost like a way to see content that you would have missed because it's so dependent on chance later on. Yeah.
Yeah. Really powerful. It costs 7 to play as him.
Okay.
So they give you, but at some point those become meaningless. You bought all the stuff.
Yeah.
So, 2 of those characters have passed. The Gunslinger kind of technically does, where you go to Bullet Hill and you fight a double Lich.
Okay.
Fight, which is really tricky. One of the Liches is jammed.
Oh shit.
So, but you're very powerful as the gunslinger.
Yeah, I
like I didn't
suppose,
actually
yeah,
have that much
forget
of a
that.
problem with
Yeah.
with him. The other two past are more creative though.
Yeah.
The robot is great here.
It's you're fighting the last human. What's
Yep.
his regret for this? Is this when he picked up the sword?
It's when he didn't. Well, the robot never picked up the sword.
Oh, shit,
This
you're
is the
right,
robot
sorry.
just like
Yeah.
didn't kill the
Yeah.
didn't kill the last human. I guess
Yeah.
it's Sarah Connor from Terminator.
Yeah, it's extremely buff, so it's a Hulkified Sarah Connor. Yeah. But like
Show me
you're
something in a muscular Connor.
you're in an arena. Like it's like a Planet of the Apes execution that you're doing. You know, trial by combat kind of thing. She's got a machine gun. She'll fire she'll bring her flunkies out at you. I just love that theme. You know, the last human on a planet of bullets.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then the bullets past is Link to the Past.
Yeah.
You fight two chain gunners, then a Gundam, and then cannon. And you have the worst version of the blasphemy. You have the unpowered blasphemy, which does not shoot.
Okay.
So you just have a melee weapon
Oh, yeah,
for this.
'cause-
This is pretty hard.
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
It's Zelda though.
well, I mean, like the Aghanim fight looked really fun because you're slamming the you're slamming the projectiles back at it, right?
Yeah. Cannon is really tough.
Yeah.
It's the only pass with two bosses. And cannon is you just have to be very patient,
Yeah.
you know, to fight cannon. I found this very difficult.
Yeah.
Worth it though to unlock the blasphemy for other characters.
Of course. Tell me about Bullet Hell and the Lich, because this looked like some bullshit, and it's part of the reason why every additional thing seems like it would involve going through this a bunch, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, bullet hell really sucks. It's worse than the Lich. It's so whenever you get to it, there are three kind of paths, like Darverticula from the main floor, two of which will end in a dead end, and one of which will have a boss.
Okay.
So you end up having, and there are no treasure rooms. There's a secret room with an evil gun muncher, which I mentioned.
Okay.
But it's just a pain because you're not getting any treasure, and they're the hardest enemies in the game. Are here. They're like really cool, like mutated versions of enemies. Like there are shotkin that open up and become spiders. Like their faces open up to show a bunch of guns, and then they get legs and they scuttle around. It's like very good and creepy.
Yeah.
But the two things they introduce here are lots of bullets that bounce.
Okay.
Lots of bullets that move in a very slight wave pattern,
Ugh.
which is actually a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And you end up clearing the whole thing without getting power-ups, which like at some point someone needs to tell people who make roguelikes, like, that's what I'm playing for.
Yeah.
Like I want cool powers.
Daddy needs candy.
You know, Isaac does this too. You know, takes away your candy in the last few floors.
Yeah.
Give me candy. The Lich is a 3-phase boss fight. It's not as hard as the floor, and it's really creative. It does things like it creates like a spaceship out of bullets that like does a launch that creates like a big backdraft. It does a thing where it shoots out. It creates like a huge circle, like a Pac-Man shape of bullets. And it rotates, so you have to stay in Pac-Man's mouth as it kind of rotates around. Like it's really, really neat.
Yeah.
Really creative patterns. The second phase is a little bit like the Dragon, where it's at the top. He
gets real big. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the third phase, he's back in you're back in the first arena.
Gotcha.
But yeah, not nearly actually as bad as the stage leading up to him. I would put him at about Dragon difficulty.
Gotcha. No.
Then the secret floors each have a boss and kind of a gimmick. These bosses are interesting, but there's only one per secret floor.
Right.
So the Oubliette, which we mentioned, which is the sewer level. You fight the Blobulord, which is one of the easiest bosses. It's up there with the Gorgon.
Yeah.
Very easy. Fires bullets that are shaped like blobs or fires spreads. Sometimes will duck into a vent or a grate and then explode into small blobs.
Okay. Oh, that's cute.
But very cute.
It just kind of seems like a boss fight designed to be adorable. Like when we say he shoots blocks or shoots bullets in pattern shaped like blobs, it's like he's drawing out just a very simple blob enemy. Like there are even eyes and mouths on it, and they're smiling. Like just pretty adorable actually, but not hard.
Very cute.
Yeah.
But very, very easy. This guy, if you take the crust from this floor and put it on the altar on the second floor, you get to the Abbey of the True Gun, which is full of like priest type enemies.
Okay.
Jammed enemies will appear here, and the kind of later enemies. The cool thing about this is that there are always 2 secret rooms, one of which will always give you an item. You'll always get a synergy chest for beating the boss. We forgot to mention those, but those are chests that will always give you something that synergizes with something that you have.
Oh, nice. Well, there's an
they're kind of
NPC who you can use. You can spend hegemony bucks and like get synergy chests off of her, right?
Yeah, just regular money.
Regular money. Okay.
The boss here is really hard, though. This is kind of a reference to Old King Durin.
Yeah, I
from,
figured.
Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old King Bullet King version, and he's just a really hard, tanky version of the Bullet King, like way trickier attacks.
Yeah.
Very tanky. Like this guy is very, very hard to flawless, or even to beat without like a lot of health.
Looks like a lot.
Yeah. By the time you fight him, you've been through 3 floors. So it's not like you have 3 floors of power behind you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're, it's a second floor boss, but he is very tricky.
Yeah.
RNG, which we mentioned, we talked about that earlier. That's really great with Gundam voiced by Cam Clark, underlined. And then the most annoying one to me is the resourceful rats layer. You get that nod key. And then once you do that, then certain treasure chests, instead of giving you treasure, will give you an infuriating note.
Yeah.
These are permanent. You don't lose them. And they give you the directions once you get down here. So it's kind of like a Lost Woods kind of thing.
Yeah.
You have 6 different rooms you're supposed to go into. If you go in the wrong order, you just reset and just go to the 4th floor. If you go in the right order, you get to the resourceful rat, which is the hardest boss in the game.
Yeah, it's cute the way that they code the directions, because at the end of each of the infuriating notes, there's like a little like drawing of a wheel of or of a wedge of cheese, and the direction that the wedge of cheese is pointing is the direction that you need to go in the order that in the order that you're given. Yeah. What makes resourceful rat so hard outside of the final phase?
Well, he's a 3-phase boss. The first phase is like a small boss. Like we haven't really had like a little tiny agile boss. Really tricky, like throws out these high speed kunais at you, puts like mouse traps everywhere, sends various waves at you. But the first phase is fine. The second phase is what makes it tough, where you jump down and he's in a gigantic mech.
Yeah.
That's what he's been building with all the stuff he stole from you. Canonically. And this is really hard. Some of the hardest patterns to dodge in the game. They're doable, but like it's worth watching a video of this just to see kind of what you can do with bullet hell.
Yeah.
One of the things I like about this game versus other bullet hell games is that like you can all of these bullet hell things have very obvious safe spaces to stand in. It's just the trick of staying in them. So like sometimes it's not just reaction. It's not like, Ikaruga always felt like the bullets were coming out randomly.
Yeah.
Because enemies were doing them, like big spreads of enemies on the screen. This is more like the environment will take on kind of a world state. Like this attack is going on now. What does that mean? Well, it means that I have to stay inside these circles that are rotating clockwise around him, and then bounce to circles that are rotating counterclockwise that are safe, after they get dangerous. Really, really tricky though. And then after this, the game changes into a totally different genre. You get like 1 second to study the controls and it becomes Punch Out.
Yeah.
You do a Punch Out match with him, which is hard because you're on a time limit. And it's hard because that's also 3, like you have to knock him down 3 times.
Yeah.
You can block and duck, and you can parry him. You can shoot him, like Punch Out, like shoot him when he's flashing.
Okay.
And you, this is very difficult. You beat him if you get to this phase. You don't die if you die on this phase.
Okay.
He just knocks you out.
This determines your rewards, right?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. As you punch him, items pop out of him, which you'll get after this. And then you get keys. The first time you punch him, you get 1 key. You get other keys by finishing him off with a star punch, which works the same way as Punch Out. And if you flawless him and do all the rounds with star punches, you'll get all 6 keys.
Gotcha.
You go down to his little lair where he does this very, very long tragic soliloquy to you, which is very funny, talking about how disadvantaged he is and like why he has to steal and stuff. And he has 4 chests that have his like 4 signature items in them, which are all really good. His boots give you coyote time.
Oh,
So when you run over a ledge, they're like cartoon boots. So
Okay.
you don't fall right away. It's not quite flying, but it's close. He has a sack, which when you roll through a bullet, it collects it in the sack. And then once you have like you can unleash them
oh, that's
all at
cool.
once. It's very cool. The partially eaten cheese, which is shaped like Pac-Man, that turns you into a cheese Pac-Man, which is invincibility, and you can eat enemies. And then my favorite thing, which is his gun, it's a pun between Eliminator and the cheese, like Elementaler,
Okay.
whatever that's called.
Okay.
But there's like a word for Swiss cheese. But it's an unlimited ammo gun that cheeses up enemies. Like they get covered in cheese,
Cheeses them up.
and then they
Like
cheeses them up.
happens.
Yeah, like as somebody might get cheesed up.
Okay.
You've been meatballed. And this is just incredibly powerful and unlimited ammo.
What's the effect of being cheesed up? I mean, you're doing damage while this is
you're
happening,
frozen.
obvious. Oh, okay.
And when you die, you explode into cheese on the ground that'll cheese up other enemies.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a big cheese nacho explosion. If you get all four, you get the resourceful rat transformation, which makes the resourceful rat no longer steal your stuff.
That's pretty underwhelming, actually.
It's not super good. It's also somewhere in there you get his. I think when the first time you beat him, you get his ring, and that's really cool because it allows you to drop one item on a floor, and he exchanges it.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically like a reroll that you can do once per floor.
Oh, nice.
This is also where you can find the dragon sapling, like a little baby dragon, and he's in a cell. You can unlock the cell. You can also feed him through the bars. You have to feed him, I think, 3 items.
Okay.
Including you can feed him the resourceful rat. Like you can kick him down as he's like begging you and feed him to the dragon.
Okay.
And this gives you a little baby dragon that follows you, which you then need to bring to the final dragon fight.
And what happens?
To do that's how you get the advanced dragon.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Get the super version. He's incredibly tough. Probably tougher than the resourceful rat.
Yeah.
And also a pain to do.
Yeah. I mean, sounds pretty hard to keep that. I mean, it's
do
hard
a
enough
lot
to
of
keep
stuff.
yourself alive. Yeah. And then you got to keep the
Yeah.
other thing alive too.
It can't die. It's just kind of
Oh,
like
yeah.
it blocks bullets for you. You maybe before he becomes that thing, you have to have an egg and you have to put it in lava.
Oh, man.
Be to
That's
get him. Like there's
really
lots of little
complicated.
tricks. Yeah, absolutely. Tons of like little tricks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, and that's Enter the Gungeon.
Yeah, that's Enter the Gungeon. A very good game that I admire, but I'm probably not going to play again.
I get it.
Yeah. like
For me, like roguelikes are either like I'm going to play this until I'm totally exhausted, or I'm going to play it until I feel like I've beaten it.
okay.
And they're roughly like 1-to-1. Like I played Into the Breach until I was exhausted. I played this until I was exhausted. I played Isaac until I was exhausted. And then like something like Dead Cells or
Hades.
Hades. Yeah, I just kind of played until, or Slay the Spire. Like I played until like I was like, oh, I've seen the ending.
Yeah.
Like I got it, and I was fine walking away from it. And I think that that's actually one of the things I like about the genre
Yeah.
is that it's kind of up to you when you're done with it.
Right. Yeah, and just there's something about the structure for me that just like it clangs against like either my motivation or it clangs against what would normally motivate me. Like I get real motivated by like new content. I understand you're seeing a lot of content when you get new stuff in this or when you go to a new floor, but I don't know. Like I need to feel like I am making progress, and that is often not really apparent to you when you're in the middle of this. And when you combine that with playing it for a show, it does end up being a little bit it's like having bugs in your brain a little bit, but also like that's why even though I like and respect like Dead Cells, like that's a really good Castlevania, like I'm not necessarily playing that for fun. I think that Hades is a beautiful game. Probably like I played enough of it and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I've got this, but I'm not motivated to see the end of this.
It's really it kind of grabs a different kind of gamer psychographic.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I was thinking about a lot, because we're doing Monster Train after this and trying to, when I saw people in the Slack who were like, bounce off of this, and I was like, well, one of the things I want to do during this episode is explain the appeal of the genre to me. And unfortunately I have this like shitty head cold and I feel like I've been a little slow in the head. But one of the things about it is this is what Overwatch is to me.
Okay.
You know, like people who want to play Overwatch, which is the same game over and over, and they want to get the dynamic challenge and the permanence of that game through fighting people. You know, having a different opponent every time and having that challenge. For me, this scratches that same itch as a short play session, iterative progression.
Yeah.
But I don't have to deal with people.
Yeah,
You know,
that's a
it's just-
pretty
I
big
just-
selling point. Yeah.
It's huge. Like I never want to play video games with a human. It fucking sucks. You know, so this is I get to kind of go through, make a little bit of progress, see, you know, new stuff, and have this feeling that like, oh, this is my before bed game that takes 45 minutes and I know it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to play it before bed every night for like a summer and eventually like start checking things off a list. But until then, I'm just engaging with it as a toy that also has this progression to keep me coming. And I don't have to learn how to play Rocket League. You know, which like is a cool game that I admire, but I have no interest in. Like, I'm always going to be more interested in, you know, me versus a programmer, you know, or versus a set challenge versus me versus like a person.
Yeah, no, I can totally understand that. I think that for me, the comfort that I derive out of being familiar with, you know, with it, that does not outstrip kind of the frustration at a lack of apparent progress. Even if I understand that I'm like improving the meta, like, I don't know, just maybe I take failure harder in these. Maybe it just feels like I am throwing too much time into it for not enough to get out of it. And it's probably like an expectation thing. It just that sense of comfort is not something I derive when I fire one of these up. You know,
and I don't envy you doing it for the show, right? Like the next episode we're doing is Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which is something that would play so much better if I wasn't doing it for the show.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, and I was 22 years old or whatever and could just like hang out in it.
Yeah.
The reason why, you know, these roguelikes, like, you know, we're doing Monster Train, as you mentioned, I started playing that. I'm like, oh, I'm going to play this until I get to the Slay the Spire point. Easy.
Yeah.
This is so extremely my shit. Like, I'm in.
Yeah, and also, I mean, just also throwing this out there as a mea culpa, or, you know, caveat. You know, Enter the Gungeon is really, really hard. Like, it's not as hard as it looks, and you definitely do. You know, it's not insurmountable, right? I got to a point where I could, you know, pretty consistently get to, if not the fifth floor, at least I would, you know, hit up against a hard wall on the third, or I would, you know, peter out on a boss in the fourth, right? Like, that, and you know, like that. Like, I feel like I grew that was a lot of growth in that, but like, it's also just a type of game. Like, bullet hell's hard. Like, I didn't mind you know, doing the peaceful run in Undertale. Like that's okay. Like, I'm fine with that. But like, this is rough. Monster Train, it's a different kind. It's
a strategy game.
Yeah, it's a strategy game. You know, so like, and you have it is not dependent on me being capable of dodging and like assessing these patterns. You know, so like,
same thing with Into the Breach. Like, eventually we'll do, or you could just play Slay the Spire, which is similar. You know, perfect information strategy games. Like the roguelike structure, like tying that meta progression. And kind of a variety of ways to play, like playing it, having a short run that is different every time. Yeah. Like, you know, it might be if you're popping on to play Overwatch or Left 4 Dead or something, right, onto different genres is one of my favorite things that has happened in games. You know, very obvious, like, since I'm, you know, a big Isaac guy, obviously. But I really, you know, if Isaac was just a game with a beginning, middle, and end, I would not like it as much. And it depends kind of on the game, right? Like, we talked about that with Dead Cells. Like, I really wanted Dead Cells just to be a game. Like, very badly. I think that the control scheme on that worked better. And there are ones that don't work for me. Like, everybody I know, it would make tons of sense for me to love Spelunky. Like, and Spelunky, I think, is very hard. I think that, like, there's not enough, like, toys in it. Like, it takes a while to get the toys. Like, I want to feel empowered. I want to feel toys. And it just kind of doesn't click with me. Or like Nuclear Throne, which you mentioned, which I think is harder than this. It's shorter, but that game is really fucking hard. and you're meant to do like really brief, like 10-minute runs in that, where you're just dying and dying and dying.
Yeah.
This kind of middle, like 45 minutes to an hour for a run, some slowdown, some tactical kind of long-term decision making in terms of like shops and economies,
Yeah.
things like that is very appealing to me.
Yeah.
It just hits my wavelength.
Yeah, and it's probably important to say it, even though it is pretty obvious. Like the roguelike structure attached to a kind of game, you kind of have to enjoy the kind of game that it's attached to.
Totally.
Yeah.
And either one can make up for the other one.
Yeah.
Like if you're not a roguelike guy, I still think you should play Into the Breach, because Into the Breach is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
That is one of the best games we've done for the show, hands down.
Yeah.
Like very easy. And it is a strategy game. Like if you're a strategy fan, you'll like Into the Breach, even though it does have meta progression and roguelike, permadeath kind of elements.
Yeah.
To it.
Like I thought of another one that it doesn't come up a lot in discussions of these, but like I love FTL, right?
Yeah.
As a that particular kind of strategy game, kind of the moment to moment kind of deal. Yeah, yes, you have to kind of sing with the basic kind of game that this is, and this is not just mechanic-y, but like it very demanding of you.
Yes.
You have to rise to meet it in a way that is really high risk, high reward for how you're going to spend your time with it.
Yeah. It taps into my, Souls like pattern recognition part. And we talked a lot about, we do a whole show on Dark Souls, and we talk a lot about how, for me, Dark Souls has kind of ceased to become about that. I would have clicked harder with Sekiro. Like Dark Souls is more about newness for me and that kind of novelty. But to me, Enter the Gungeon it hits that balance of like, I want to learn these patterns.
Yeah.
And fight these bosses at the right level for me.
Yeah.
Like the controls feel good and it's the right level of difficulty. Whereas I have no interest in doing that in like Devil May, like mastering them or mastering Sekiro bosses, really. I want to scrape by those.
Yeah.
Whereas something about the way this controls and the flavor, the music, and like the possibility space is just a place I want to be in long enough to learn those things.
Yeah.
Definitely not for everybody. I don't blame anybody.
There is so much here to like, and there's so much here to pull you forward. Even just like getting to the next joke is really good. There's a density. There's a density of joy in this that is it's not too bitter of a pill to feel like you have like botched a run. Because you probably saw something delightful all along the way. Yeah. And
as we talk about a lot, like each you decide when you're done with a game. Like you, Cole, who beat the dragon, that's 100% valid. Like I would never, if you didn't, I wouldn't say that wasn't valid.
Right.
But like that is an ending for the game.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the stuff is bonus that's there if you want to keep exploring. It even says after you do that, like you go back to the past, go back to the breach, and it's like you got killed by nothing. You did great. And then the final little postscript is it says, but the Gungeon still contains mysteries.
Yes.
Like to me, that is, letting like, do you want to keep up with this?
Yeah.
You can. But if people, if they like twin stick shooters, if you like action games, give this a shot. And if you play it for 20 hours and get to the dragon once or beat the dragon once, like and you're not compelled, that's great. You did it.
You got another game on under your belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Lucian, for getting me to engage with this. I will forgive you for making me play a roguelike for the show. I felt like I did. I felt like I came into this completely unprepared. I did not feel like I had the ground under my feet on this. Hopefully I did okay.
On a you did great. Yep. On a vague sense, like looking at stuff that we've talked about for the year, or the things that we have on docket for the year, like 2021 is the year of the Gary game and the Cole game respectively. Like there's definitely going to be things that we both like.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff that is definitely like, man, this is a Gary ass game, and man, this is a Cole ass game.
Yeah. So if you're looking for conflict, baby, ding ding.
I think it's all stuff that we'll both like. If you're looking for the conflict of one person loving something and the other person admiring it, watch out, because sparks will fly.
Yeah. Oh geez.
If you have anything to say about Enter the Gungeon, you can hit us up by the 15th of January.
Yep.
That's when we'll be doing responses. Or if you have anything to say about Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which is our premium episode for this month.
Yeah.
Which means that everyone gets the generalities, but the full episode is for patrons.
Yeah.
You become a patron at patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
Yeah. You can also do that if you have thoughts about Return of the Obra Dinn. Because that also is in this batch here as well. We're going to read those responses in the dispatch episode coming out the last week of the month. That's when we do like question and answer, and we talk about a longer topic and read your responses. If you have thoughts about February's games, which I have to pull up here, which are Monster Train, The Last of Us, and the premium episode there is The Outer Wilds, which I've done a little bit of that, and that is a cool ass game. Then the deadline for that is the 15th of February.
Yes, and we'll be announcing March's games during the dispatch this month.
Yep.
If you want to sponsor a game, you do that at the Patreon as well.
Yep.
We're booked out a few months, but there's definitely space for you. And you can also help us out by leaving ratings or reviews on Apple Podcast or Podcast Addict. Yep. We appreciate those, and telling your friends.
Yeah, tell your friends. The backlog is probably intimidating, but there's no need to listen from the beginning. I know people who do that. That is not the intended use case. If you're talking to friends about it and they say, "Man, it seems like a lot," if you know that they if you know that they really really like a particular game, you have listened to the episode and know that we're not taking a shit on it, send them an episode that about a game that they know about or care about. And yeah.
We don't always like everything.
Yes.
And there's also, if you're expecting this to be a catalog ranking of all the guns or whatever in this game,
no,
that's not what we do.
No.
But they might like what we do.
Yeah.
Apologies for being fuzzy headed during this as well. There might be a couple weird edits as well because we got out of sync a bunch of times because I was coughing and hacking up stuff.
Yeah.
Little trivia, very early on in this episode, I coughed up something and didn't have go back to the episode and see if you can find the place where in the background I'm trying to figure out what to do about that. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Wait, was that during the break when I asked you, "Are you okay?"
No, it was a stealth.
Oh, yeah,
it was a stealth mission.
Yeah.
No, it didn't make any sound.
Ooh.
So that'll give you some clues as to the texture and nature of the thing that came out of my body.
Fucking yuck, man. Oh, God.
I know, dude. It sucks.
I need to go eat dinner. I'm sorry that happened to you, but I mean,
I didn't read all that. Sorry that happened.
Or congrats. Yeah.
Or congrats. But anyway, so apologies for being a little bit off my game today, people, and Lucian.
Okay.
And yeah, thanks everybody. What should they watch out for until next time?
They should watch out for regrets.
Gungeon wing to whisper one truth. Body the floor, bullet the roof. Ammo wheeling past, killing, gunshot shooting. Non-stop hammer cock, violent man of shots, man a lot. Keep cannon, hot cannon, I seize granite, rock, peace, press, cannon, got peace, best, last man standing, gun speed, please, push, hand, Murder your face, pea shooter, rusty blooper, roll special vindicator, be hot in the temple's orb, disintegrator, the place your lord, make a demon head for the hater, unicorn horn, blade gauge, gun, roll ice, break the dungeon, evil, punching man, tiller, robots, right hand. Who's he fine, never